3 minutes before the college entrance exam, my mother sent a text message, shining, "If I'm gone, you must live well." In my previous life, it was this message that ruined me. I rushed out of the exam hall, frantically heading to the hospital, missing the college entrance exam, missing Hucking, missing the life that was meant to be mine. Later, she pretended to be sick, pretended to be pitiful, pretended to be the mother who loved me more than anyone in the world, pushing me to the brink of breakdown again and again. I was forced to drop out of school, trapped at home, becoming her living ATM for cashing in suffering points. At the age of 26, I fell from the hospital rooftop. Just before dying, I finally saw the words floating above her head. Those words told me that my mother was a task agent sent from another world. For 18 years, every accident she orchestrated, every tear she shed, was to exchange for suffering points, and I was her ATM. When I opened my eyes again, I was back 3 minutes before the college entrance exam. My dad's call came right after, his voice cracking, "Your mom swallowed sleeping pills, come home now." I clutched my phone, watching the words resurface above her head, and smiled. She wants me to break down, but I'll finish my exam. She wants to consume my suffering points, but I'll make sure she gets none. First in grade, fourth in the province. These scores were snatched from her mouth with my own hands after I was reborn. Chapter 1. There were many people outside the examination hall in June. I stood at the entrance of the teaching building, with my admission ticket tucked in my pocket, running through the classical Chinese translation one last time in my mind. The phone vibrated, a text message from my mom, shining, "If mom is gone, you must live well. I owe you so much in this life, and I can't repay it." I stared at the screen, my fingers not moving in time. Then my dad's call came in. The moment the call connected, he was almost shouting, "Your mom swallowed a whole bottle of sleeping pills, found her in the bathroom, pills all over the floor, come back now." Someone yelled on the other end of the line, "Don't touch her, call an ambulance." The chaos was overwhelming. In my previous life, it was right here that I broke down. I didn't even have time to explain to the invigilator. Clutching my admission ticket, I ran straight for the school gate. Of course, Fang Jinshu didn't die that day. She had only had her stomach pumped. Lying weakly on the hospital bed, clutching my hand and crying, but my college entrance exam was completely ruined. Later, I was blamed by all my relatives for being unreasonable, pitted by the school, resented by my father, and trapped by her, year after year of illness, tear after tear, by her side for a full 8 years, until I died on the hospital rooftop. I finally saw the words above her head. Now, those words have appeared again, lines of translucent text, suspended in the air, visible only to me. Task Agent Fang Jinshu initiates the ultimate suffering event. Target: create a suicide-related emotional trigger before the host's college entrance exam. Suffering value estimated plus 200. 1 suffering point can be exchanged for 8 million energy points in the main world. I clutched my phone and smiled instead. Tasker: suffering value, exchange. The truth that tormented me to death in my previous life was laid out before me right from the start of this one. A few more lines surfaced below. Fang Jinshu has been lurking in this world for 18 years, accumulating a total suffering value of 1,650. List of historical suffering events. Host suffered food poisoning at age 6, suffering value plus 80. Host fell and fractured a bone at age 10, suffering value plus 120. Host was framed at age 15, nearly expelled, suffering value plus 150. My hands began to tingle. That year, when I was 6, I drank a bowl of spare rib soup my mother had stewed, and in the middle of the night, I vomited and had diarrhea, being rushed to the hospital for a full night of stomach pumping. She cried outside the emergency room for 3 hours, and even the nurses came to comfort her. 10 years old, on weekends, she took me to the park, and I fell off the climbing frame, suffering a comminuted fracture in my left leg. She knelt before my hospital bed, saying she hadn't held me properly, that she didn't deserve to be a mother. 15 years old, someone stuffed a valuable silver bracelet into my school bag, and the homeroom teacher accused me of stealing, nearly giving me a disciplinary record. She rushed to the school and made a scene, demanding justice for me, sobbing and weeping bitterly. In the end, although the truth was finally uncovered, the rumor of stealing followed me for an entire semester. Every single thing, every incident I thought was an accident in my previous life. I didn't learn the truth until the very end of my life. In this life, they were laid out before me in advance. All of it was her doing. The floating text continued to scroll. Supplement: during the host's theft incident at age 15, The silver bracelet was personally placed in the host's backpack by Fang Jinshu. The purchase channel has been destroyed. The phone kept ringing. Gu Yuanjing's voice was completely hoarse. Say something. Your mom is dying. Another line of text floated out. Poor kid. That's how he missed the college entrance exam in his previous life, and never recovered from it. Fang Jinshu picked the timing perfectly. I clutched my phone, holding it tightly for a long time. In my previous life, I lost because I trusted her too much. This life, I even feel it's a waste of time to look back, then hang up, turn off the phone, tuck the phone into the innermost compartment of the backpack and zip it up. The examination room is on the 3rd floor. As I went up the stairs, my legs felt a little weak, but not because I was afraid. The invigilator checked the admission tickets at the door. I handed over my ID. Teacher, please keep my phone for a moment. She glanced at me, nodded, and pointed to a seat inside. I walked in and sat down, closed my eyes, opened them again. The floating words completely disappeared. All that remained before her eyes were the exam paper and the answer sheet. In the previous life, she stepped on my breakdown to take away 2 billion. In this life, after 18 years of hard study, she still wants to turn me into a waste. I refuse. I will use my scores, my university, my future to shatter her script piece by piece. Chapter 2. The last exam ended, and the sky had already turned pitch black. The school gate was packed with parents. Some held flowers, others hugged their children and cried. No one is waiting for me. I stood under the streetlight for a while, then hailed a taxi. First City People's Hospital. The driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror and said nothing. It was almost 9 o'clock when we arrived. The lights in the hospital corridor were cold and pale, and the smell of disinfectant was overpowering. Gu Yuanjing was leaning against the door of the ward, smoking. When he suddenly looked up at the sound of footsteps, he threw his cigarette to the ground and rushed over in 3 strides. When the slap came, I didn't flinch. Her face turned to one side, her left ear buzzed, and there was a metallic taste in her mouth. You still know how to come back. Your mother took sleeping pills and you didn't come back. Are you made of stone? A nurse poked her head out in the hallway, then quickly withdrew. An old man pushing a wheelchair shook his head, probably thinking the kid was out of line. Gu Yuanjing's finger almost poked me in the nose. You didn't come after the Chinese exam, you didn't come after the math exam, you only showed up after everything was over. Are you even human? I slowly turned my face back. My left cheek felt hot. It must have swollen. In my previous life, after this slap, I knelt outside the hospital room crying, saying I was unfilial, but now, I just find it ridiculous. I looked at him. Is she dead? Gu Yuanjing stood there in a daze, his mouth slightly agape, but no sound came out. Floating text emerged once again. Ning did not break down, did not abandon the exam. The triggering conditions for the hardship event were not met. Fang Jinshu's operation this time has failed. Hardship value +0, due to the consumption of a large amount of disguise resources. Fang Jinshu cannot leave this world in the short term. Continue to lie low and wait for the next high hardship value event window. 8 million hardship points. Who would be willing to leave? I shifted my gaze away from the floating text on the hospital bed. Fang Jinshu slowly opened her eyes. Her face was sallow, her lips chapped and peeling, with an 4 catheter inserted in her left hand, and her back of the hand was bruised with purple and blue marks. The moment she saw me, her eyes welled up with tears. Ning, you're here. She struggled to raise her right hand toward me, her fingers trembling. Mom thought I'd never see you again. Gu Yuanjing quickly leaned in to support her. Don't move. The doctor said your stomach has been pumped, and you shouldn't get agitated now. Fang Jinshu shook her head, tears streaming down, her voice breaking in her throat. Ning, come here, let mom look at you. I didn't move. Her hand hung in midair, paused for 3 seconds, then slowly withdrew and rested on the blanket. Her shoulders began to tremble. It's mom's fault. Mom shouldn't have done something foolish during your exam. Gu Yuanjing turned his head and glared at me. Come over here and call her mom. She almost lost her life. I ignored him. I looked at Fang Jinshu, watching how every tear rolled down, how her lips trembled, how she performed weakness and guilt down to the very tips of her eyelashes. Great. Last time, she tricked me into kneeling by her hospital bed, swearing I would never leave her again. This time, she wants to put on the same act again. 18 years, and the acting has only grown more polished. The ward fell silent for a few seconds. A family member from the next bed coughed, probably wanting to smooth things over but too embarrassed to speak up. Gu Yuanjing's fists were clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned white. I adjusted the straps of my school bag upward. Just as long as she's not dead. I turned and walked out, what Gu Yuanjing shouted behind me. I didn't catch clearly. Fang Jinchu's sobs suddenly rose in volume, louder and louder. The corridor was long, the sound of my shoes stepping on the floor was even and steady. A few more lines of floating text drifted out. Ning's reaction has seriously deviated from the original script. Original plot: Ning abandons the exam, rushes to the hospital, wails and cries, and breaks down emotionally. Current status: Ning remains emotionally stable. Fang Jinchu's suffering plan has completely failed. I stared at the words, completely failed, and for the first time, my chest loosened with relief. Revenge doesn't always have to be loud and chaotic. As long as I don't break down the way she scripted it, she won't gain a single cent. The last line of text changed color, turning dark red. Warning: Fang Jinshu will not let this go. The intensity of the next hardship event will escalate significantly. I stopped in my tracks, staring at that line of red text for 2 seconds, until it slowly faded away. Next time, there's always a next time. Chapter 3, 1 week later, Fang Jinshu was discharged from the hospital. On the same day, someone came to the house. A girl was standing in the living room, about my height, but thinner, with a low ponytail. She looked up and saw me, then immediately lowered her head, her voice so soft it was almost inaudible. Hello, sister. Before I could react, Gu Yuanxian spoke first. Ningning, sit down. There's something I need to tell you. He didn't look at me, staring at the unlit cigarette in his hand. Her name is Gu Yao. She's my daughter from outside. She's the same age as you. The words floated out. Gu Yao, born from Gu Yuanxian's extramarital affair, same age and birth month as Ning. Fang Jinshu actively introduced the illegitimate daughter into the family. Purpose: to create a family-splitting hardship event. Estimated hardship value plus 180. Fang Jinshu came out of the bedroom. The bandage on her forehead hadn't been removed yet, her face still pale, but she walked steadily. She stood between Gu Yuanjing and Gu Yao, staring at Gu Yao for a few seconds. Then she turned to me, her eyes welling up. Ningning, Mom kept it from you because I was afraid you couldn't bear it. Your father was with another woman when I was pregnant with you. Gu Yuanjing slammed his cigarette onto the coffee table and said nothing. Gu Yao lowered her head even further, her shoulders trembling. Fang Jinshu's voice grew louder, breaking into sobs. I've endured it for 18 years. 18 years, do you know how I've made it through? All the bitterness I swallowed was for you. I was afraid you'd grow up in an incomplete family. She covered her face and crouched down, crying uncontrollably. Out of breath, Gu Yao suddenly spoke, her voice choked with emotion. Auntie, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have come. I'll leave now. She took a step back toward the door. Fang Jinshu grabbed her wrist. Why are you leaving? It's not your fault. She looked up at Gu Yuanjing, her face covered in tears. It's him who's wrong to everyone. They sang in unison. The rhythm was perfectly synchronized. Floating words drifted by. Fang Jinshu's combination, the trigger condition for suffering value. Ning loses emotional control and runs away from home. Original plot direction: Ning makes a scene, slams the door and leaves, ends up on the streets, encounters danger, and completely falls into ruin. The suffering value will reach the upper limit of this world. I finished reading the floating text. In my previous life, I really did slam the door and run away. That night it was raining, and I sat in the internet cafe until dawn. The next day I got a fever and was hospitalized, adding another big chunk of suffering points for her. This time, I didn't take a single step. Instead, I walked straight through them, entered my room, and closed the door behind me. Fang Jinshu's sobs paused outside the door, as if a record had been paused. 2 seconds later, they started again, louder than before. Chapter 4, The Drama. Outside the door lasted a full hour. Fang Jinshu cried, Gu Yao trembled, and Gu Yuanjing remained silent. The three of them worked together as if they had rehearsed dozens of times. I sat at the desk and flipped the college application guide to the 3rd page. Around 9 o'clock, Fang Jinshu knocked on the door. Ningning, come out and eat. Her voice had returned to normal, no longer crying, steady as if nothing had happened. I opened the door. She stood at the doorway, holding a bowl of porridge, her expression gentle. Mom made mung bean porridge. It'll help cool you down. I didn't take it. I want to ask you something. Go ahead. Where does Gu Yao live? Fang Jinshu paused for a moment, a hint of unease flashing across her face. I let her stay in the guest room. Her mother ran off a couple of months ago, and she has nowhere else to go. Your dad said we can't just ignore her. I feel for the child too. I looked into her eyes. All right, from now on, she'll be eating and living here. Where will the expenses come from? Fang Jinshu didn't expect me to ask this and paused for a moment. From the household budget, of course. Your dad's monthly salary, I mean my tuition, will that still be covered as usual? Fang Jinshu's smile froze for half a beat. Of course it will, you're my daughter. How could we not pay your tuition? I nodded and took the bowl of porridge. That's good. He closed the door. I didn't drink the porridge. I poured it into the bathroom sink. The floating words drifted out again. Fang Jinshu added a trace amount of emotional disruptor to the porridge. Effect, after consumption, symptoms such as anxiety, insomnia, and irritability will occur, lasts 3 to 5 days, undetectable by routine medical examinations. Purpose, to make sure Ning make incorrect judgments during the college application period. I watched the green porridge at the bottom of the sink slowly drain away. She didn't even spare a bowl of porridge. I washed the bowl and put it back in the kitchen. As I passed through the living room, Guyao was huddled in the corner of the sofa, holding a glass of water. Seeing me, she immediately stood up. Sister, she hesitated, then pressed her lips together. I really don't want to trouble you. I didn't stop walking. No trouble at all. Back in the room, I locked the door, opened the phone memo and start recording. First, do not eat any of Fang Jinshu's bowls of soup, cups of water, or meals. Second, all accidents, coincidences, and kindness surrounding me are to be silently considered as preludes to suffering events. Third, the college entrance exam results are not out yet, but no matter the score, I will fill out the application myself. Don't let anyone touch it. Fourth rule, the debts owed to me in the previous life. Don't rush to cry, don't rush to make a scene. Record each one clearly, wait until there's enough evidence, then settle everything at once. Chapter 5, on the day the results came out, I was in the hospital, not accompanying Fang Jinshu, coming here for a comprehensive health checkup by myself. Registration, blood draw, X-ray, ECG, full set. The results came back all normal. In other words, the things Fang Jinshu poured into my body over the past 18 years didn't cause any permanent damage. She still has some sense of propriety. After all, if the tool breaks, it won't work anymore. In my previous life, I never understood why she always stopped at the edge of sufficiently painful but not fatal when harming me. Now I understand. The ATM can't be scrapped, otherwise the suffering value won't keep flowing. As I stepped out of the hospital gate, my phone vibrated. It was a call from my homeroom teacher. Sure Ning, 723 points, 4th in the province. Do you know what schools you can get into with this score? She was practically screaming. I said, I know, thank you, teacher. Hung up. The second call was from Gu Yuanzheng. Your mom said you left early this morning. Where did you go? Taking care of something. 723 points. Have you heard? Your mom is over the moon and wants you to come back right away so she can cook you something delicious. I held the phone, the corner of my mouth twitching slightly, unsure if it counted as a smile. Cook something delicious? No need, I'll eat out. Hang up. It was already evening when she got home. Several people were sitting in the living room. Fang Jinshu's 2 sisters, and a colleague of Gu Yuanzheng's. Fruits and sunflower seeds were laid out on the coffee table, and Fang Jinshu sat in the middle, smiling brightly. Our Ningning scored 723, 4th in the entire province. Several people began to praise her one after another. This child is so determined. Jinshu, you're so blessed to have raised such an outstanding daughter. Fang Jinshu humbly waved her hand, but her eyes glanced in my direction. It's all the child's own hard work. I just made sure she was fed. I continued changing my shoes without stopping. Guyao peeked out from the kitchen, wearing an apron and holding a plate of washed grapes. Is sister back? Congratulations. Among Fang Jinshu's sisters, a woman with permed hair glanced at Guyao from head to toe, leaning close to Fang Jinshu's ear. Her voice wasn't low enough. This is the one. Fang Jinshu's smile froze for a moment, then quickly returned. Yao Yao, just put the grapes down, go do your homework. Guyao seemed to have been burned, lowered her head, placed the grapes on the coffee table, and turned to leave. As she passed by me, I caught the scent of dish soap on her. Floating words drifted out. Fang Jinshu's plan enters the next phase. Core strategy, shift all family resources and social attention to Guyao. Make sure Ning feel the pain of being replaced. Estimated suffering value plus 120. After reading it, I walked into my room. I opened my laptop and logged into the college application system. First choice major institution, Huaqing University. Confirm submission. Change the password. Only I know the new password. In my past life, she forced me to drop out of school by lying about having terminal cancer. This life, she won't even get to lay a finger on my first choice application. Chapter 6. Over the next 3 days, Fang Jinshu's attitude toward Guyao shifted completely. She stopped treating her like that poor child and started calling her my other daughter during meals. Guyao sat beside Fang Jinshu. Fang Jinshu kept piling food and soup onto Guyao's plate, chattering non-stop, "Yao Yao, eat more, you're far too thin. Yao Yao, this outfit of yours is worn out, I'll take you shopping for 2 new ones tomorrow, Auntie will pay." Gu Yuanjing sat across the table, his face a tangled mix of guilt and gratitude. "Jinshu, you're not mad anymore." Fang Jinshu sighed and tapped his wrist lightly with her chopsticks. "Why would I stay angry at a kid? None of this was her fault, but I haven't forgotten what you did, though." Gu Yuanjing shrank his neck and said nothing more. I sat opposite them, quietly eating the loaf of bread I'd bought outside. Fang Jinshu shot me a glance. "Ningning, why are you eating bread? There's plenty of food on the table." "I'm not hungry, you're such a stubborn girl, the college entrance exams are over, you ought to unwind a little." She turned back to Guyao, her tone warm and affectionate like a birth mother's. "Yao Yao, how did you score on the college entrance exam?" Guyao set down her chopsticks and mumbled softly. 561 points. Fang Jinshu let out a surprised exclamation. 561 is a solid score, that's more than enough for second-tier undergraduate universities. Take your time picking schools, and Auntie will help you sort through the options. Gu Yuanjing nodded in agreement. "Exactly right, I'll ask people to give you advice on your choices." Not a single person bothered to ask what university I'd listed as my first choice. Floating words materialized before my eyes once again. Adjusting the phase goals, Fang Jinshu discovered that Ning Yi is not easily triggered by direct hardships, so she shifted to a long-term draining strategy method, creating persistent emotional trauma through favoritism, neglect, and skewed resource allocation. At the same time, she is winning Guyao over to her side, creating a 2 versus 1 dominant position. I swallowed the last bite of bread. I stood up. "Dad, my admission letter should arrive around early August. By then, tuition and accommodation fees will total about 23,000 yuan. Gu Yuanzheng was peeling shrimp and paused for a moment. "Got it, I'll transfer the money then." Fang Jinshu suddenly butted in. "Ningning, can you do Mom a favor these 2 days?" "What favor?" "Mom has 1 more chemotherapy session next week. It'd be reassuring to have someone with me." She said it lightly, as if casually mentioning it. The floating text coldly scrolled a line. Fang Jingshu's cancer is a virtual illness redeemable with points. Vital signs data are completely real, enough to fool any medical test, but there's no actual harm. Fang Jingshu herself will feel no discomfort. Purpose, to bind Ning's time and energy through caregiving, consuming her preparation period before college. I glanced at Fang Jingshu, her expression was soft, even a little wounded. A mother who has just finished chemotherapy asks her daughter to accompany her. It's only natural, who could say no? "Okay, which day next week?" "Tuesday." "I'll go with you." Fang Jinshu smiled, reaching out to pat the back of my hand. My Ningning is still the most thoughtful. I didn't pull my hand away. Her fingertips were at normal temperature, unlike those of a chemotherapy patient, but I didn't mention this detail. Chapter 7. On the day of chemotherapy, I pushed Fang Jinshu into the doors of the oncology department. She was wearing a hospital gown, a silk scarf tied around her head, and her complexion was perfectly tinted a sickly yellow. The nurses at the station glanced over and whispered, "Is this the daughter who scored 723? What a filial child." Hearing this, Fang Jinshu smiled and waved her hand. The child felt sorry for me and insisted on coming along. Entering the chemotherapy room, she sat down, and the nurse attached an 4 to her. I sat on the stool beside her, flipping through a college-level textbook I had prepared in advance. Fang Jinshu closed his eyes, occasionally furrowing his brow, his breathing deliberately uneven. After a few minutes, she suddenly spoke. "Ningning, Mom wants to discuss something with you. Go ahead." She opened her eyes and looked at the ceiling. "Your grades are good enough for any school, but Mom's health is like this, and your dad is struggling to support the family alone, plus the expenses for Yao Yao." She slowly turned her head to look at me, her eyes glistening with tears. "Could you not go to a school so far away? Stay within the province, stay with Mom, and Mom will feel at ease." The floating text popped up instantly. Fang Jinshu was trying to change Sherning's college application direction. If Sherning gives up on Huqing University and stays in the province, Fang Jinshu will gain long-term control. Suffering points can enter a period of sustained and stable growth. I closed the textbook. The application has already been submitted. Fang Jinshu's expression froze for a moment, very brief, less than a second, then she forced a smile. What school did you apply to, Hua-Qing? There was a brief silence in the chemotherapy room. The patient in the next bed coughed. Fang Jinshu kept a smile on her lips, but I saw her hand with the 4-line tighten. Hua-Qing is great, Hua-Qing is great, Mom is happy for you. Her voice remained steady, but when she turned her head away and stopped looking at me, the floating text turned red. Fang Jinshu's internal state, plan obstructed, emotional fluctuations intense, re-evaluating suffering value acquisition path. New strategy generating. I stared at the new strategy generating for 5 seconds until it disappeared. After the chemotherapy ended, I pushed Fang Jinshu out. In the hallway, Gu Yuanjing walked toward her. Following behind him was Gu Yao. Gu Yao was carrying a bag of fruit. Seeing Fang Jinshu, she quickly hurried over. Auntie, I bought your favorite cherries. Fang Jinshu's expression instantly changed, as if flipping a switch. Oh, Yao Yao, you silly child, why spend this money? She patted Gu Yao's head. You're more considerate than your sister. The words were spoken just loud enough for me to hear. I pushed the wheelchair without saying a word. Gu Yuanjing probably sensed the awkward atmosphere and quickly changed the subject. All right, let's go home. The car was very quiet on the way back. Fang Jinshu sat in the passenger seat, resting with her eyes closed. Gu Yao sat beside me, her hands resting on her knees, fingers twisting together. She hesitated for a long time before finally speaking softly. Sis, you ranked 4th in the province. That's really amazing. I gazed out the window. Yeah, I wanted to do better too, but no one ever looked after me when I was little, so my foundation is just too weak. A score of 561 isn't bad at all. She blinked, as if she hadn't expected me to say that. But you're still far behind. That's different. She fell silent, lowering her head to continue twisting her fingers. A line of floating text quietly slipped out. Gu Yao's current faction affiliation, undetermined. Fang Jinshu is trying to turn her into a pawn for their side. Key variable, Gu Yao's own will. I glanced at Gu Yao. Her nails were trimmed very short, and her fingers bore rough lines from prolonged exposure to cleaning agents. Does this girl even know she's on Fang Jinshu's chessboard? No. In my previous life, I also saw her as the enemy who stole my father, and we tore each other apart until both were wounded. In the end, Fang Jinshu reaped the suffering points. In this life, I will no longer stab another person who is being used, but now is not the time to worry about that. Chapter 8. The admission letter arrived. When the courier called to ask me to go downstairs to sign for it, I was in my room organizing the books I was taking with me. Go downstairs, sign, and open it. Red hardcover with the school name embossed in gold. Hua-Qing University admission notice, major, finance. I looked at it for 2 seconds, closed it, and tucked it under my arm as I went upstairs. When I entered, Fang Jinshu and Gu Yuanjing were sitting in the living room. There was an extra document on the coffee table, and Gu Yuanjing was flipping through it. Seeing what I was holding, Fang Jinshu stood up. Is it the notice? I placed the notice on the coffee table. Fang Jinshu picked it up, flipped it open, glanced at it, then closed it again. Hua-Qing, how nice, she said, her smile lasting for 3 seconds. Then she picked up the document on the coffee table and handed it to me. Ningning, take a look at this too. I took it. It was a medical report. Fang Jinshu's name, stomach cancer, advanced stage. The metastatic lesions have spread to the liver and lymph nodes. Hospital seal. Date is 3 days ago. Last time the checkup said I needed a full re-examination. Fang Jinshu's voice began to tremble. The results are in. Much worse than before. She sat back on the sofa, her hands folded on her lap, her fingertips turning white. The doctor said, at most 8 months to a year. Gu Yuanjing turned his face toward the window. Is Adam's apple moving? Twice, the floating text exploded before my eyes. Fang Jinshu spent 500 suffering points to redeem the virtual condition. Cancer progression, new data, metastatic lesions, lymphatic spread, abnormal liver function indicators. All medical tests can verify this, but it causes no actual harm to Fang Jinshu herself. Objective, to completely bind Shi Ning with a countdown to death, forcing her to abandon college or drop out midway, if Shi Ning gives up her studies to care for her mother. Suffering points will increase by 500 at once. I stared at the diagnosis report. The diagnosis report stamped with the red seal of a top-tier hospital. Anyone who sees this will believe it. Fang Jinshu's tears fell. Ningning, Mom doesn't want to be a burden on you. You should go to school. Don't worry about me. The more she said, don't worry, the more she meant, you must take care of me. Gu Yuanjing finally spoke, his voice muffled. Maybe, take a year off first, wait until you're Mom's treatment stabilizes before going. Tsinghua should be able to keep your student status. Fang Jinshu immediately shook her head. No, we can't delay the child. She covered her mouth, sobbing, even if I die, I can't let Ningning take a leave of absence. Good acting. The floating text drifted another line. Original plot. Shi Ning is emotionally manipulated by family ties and agrees to take a leave of absence to care for her mother. Afterward, Fang Jinshu will continuously escalate her condition, ultimately causing Shi Ning to lose her eligibility for enrollment entirely. The accumulated suffering points can reach over 2,000, enough for Fang Jinshu to purchase a full top-tier life system in the main world. Guyao didn't know when she had come out of her room and was now standing at the corner of the hallway. She glanced at Fang Jinshu, then at me, her lips moving slightly, but she said nothing. I placed the medical report back on the coffee table, picked up the admission notice. Mom, you focus on getting better, I'll keep going to school. Fang Jinshu's sobs paused for a beat. School starts on August 20th, there are still 23 days, I can stay with you for these 23 days, but on the first day of school, I'm leaving. In my past life, it was this diagnosis report that made me give up my admission. In this life, I watched the same trap being laid out on the coffee table with my own eyes. I won't fall into it again. The living room fell silent for a full 5 seconds. Fang Jinshu's mouth hung open, tears still clinging to her face, unwiped. Gu Yuanjing looked at her, then at me, unsure whose side to take. I turned and went back to my room. When I closed the door, I heard Fang Jinshu's sobs start up again, louder than before. Why is this child so heartless? I'm about to die and she still wants to leave. I sat on the edge of the bed, pressing the acceptance letter against my knee. The golden embossed characters on the red cover reflected the light from the desk lamp. This is mine, no one can take it away. Chapter 9. 1 week before school started, things changed. When I came back from outside, I found 2 extra people in the house. One was Fang Jinshu's elder sister, Fang Jinhua. The other is Fang Jinshu's mother, my grandmother, Fu Xiulan. The elderly woman in her 60s sat in the center of the sofa, her graying hair neatly combed, clutching a string of prayer beads in her hand, her face ashen. When she saw me enter, she didn't offer me food or water. Her first words were to set the tone. Shi Ning, did you know your mother has cancer? I know, you know, and you still want to leave. You still want to go to Huaqing. Fu Xiulan slammed her prayer beads onto the coffee table. Your mother is dying. As her daughter, you're not staying to take care of her, but running off to study so far away. Have you no conscience? Fang Jinhua chimed in from the side, her tone sharp and grating. Ningning, I'm not trying to lecture you. Do you know how much your mother has suffered for you in this life? Have you forgotten how she cried when you were sick as a child? Now that she's dying, are you just going to walk away? Fang Jinshu sat at the far end, not speaking, just bowing her head and shedding tears, shedding them just right. Floating words drifted out. Fang Jinshu brought in reinforcements, strategy upgraded, moral encirclement, apply pressure through the family group, create a filial impiety label, and force Shi Ning to back down. Fu Xiulan and Fang Jinhua were both ordinary people deceived, truly believing that Fang Jinshu had cancer. They were not participants in the mission. I stood at the entrance, not changing my shoes. Fu Xiulan continued to shout, I'm telling you, if you dare to leave, you're no longer my granddaughter. After your mother passes, don't come to cry, don't come to kneel, don't come to burn paper. As she said this, she started crying herself, clutching Fang Jinshu's hand. Jinshu, you've had such a hard life, married a useless man, raised a thankless daughter. Fang Jinshu leaned against her shoulder, trembling all over from crying. Gu Yuanjing stood at the balcony door, smoking one cigarette after another, neither participating nor stopping. Guyao huddled at the door of her own room at the end of the hallway, her face pale. I changed my shoes, I walked to the coffee table, picked up my own cup, and poured myself some water. Fu Xiulan glared at me. What are you trying to do? I took a sip of water. Grandma, are you saying you want me to drop out of school? What do you think? Your mother is almost dead, and after dropping out, what do you mean after dropping out? Who will cover mom's medical expenses? Will you pay, or will aunt pay? Fu Xiulan was stunned. Fang Jinhua pursed her lips. I put down the cup. Chemotherapy costs between 40,000 and 60,000 per course. Targeted drugs cost 20,000 to 30,000 a month. If surgery is needed later, it will start at 150,000. My dad earns 8,000 a month. Gu Yao still has to go to college. I've taken a leave of absence from school. Besides serving water and feeding medicine, what can I do to help pay for her medical expenses? The living room fell silent. Fu Xiaolan opened her mouth. Fang Jinhua turned to look at Fang Jinshu. Fang Jinshu's tears were still on her face, but I saw her eyes shift slightly, her lips moved, about to say something. I spoke first. Besides, Hua Qing offers a full scholarship, 60,000 yuan per year. If I get it, the extra money each year can help cover mom's medical expenses. If I drop out and stay at home, I won't get a single cent. Fu Xiaolan's expression changed. 60,000, that number was very concrete and real to her. Fang Jinhua's mouth also closed. Fang Jingshu lowered her head, her fingers twisting the corner of the bedsheet, saying not a word. Floating words drifted by. Shi Ning broke the core logic of the moral siege. Fang Jinshu temporarily lost control of the discourse, but the strategy was not completely ineffective. Fang Jinshu still had subsequent arrangements. The last line turned red. On the first day of school, Fang Jinshu will launch one final counterattack. Specific method, unknown. I put the cup in the sink and returned to my room. As soon as the door closed, I heard Fang Jinshu start crying again outside. Fu Xiaolan's voice also rose, but much quieter than before, as if she had lost her strength. 23 days, 7 days left. Chapter 10, the day before school starts. I packed my luggage, a suitcase, a backpack. The suitcase contained clothes for all seasons, daily necessities, and a set of notes revised from high school. The backpack held documents, admission letters, bank cards, and a phone charger. Not much. In 18 years, that's all I could take with me. I ate dinner outside by myself. When I came back, it was almost 8 o'clock. As soon as I opened the door, I knew something was wrong. The living room lights were all on. Fang Jinshu was sitting on the sofa, Gu Yuanjing was sitting beside her, and Fu Xiaolan was standing behind the coffee table. Fang Jinhua had returned at some point and was sitting on the single sofa. Gu Ya was not there. All four of them turned their gaze toward the door in unison. Fang Jinshu's eyes were red, and she was clutching a piece of paper in her hand. Ningning, come sit here. Her voice had calmed down, no longer crying or making a fuss, her tone as if discussing something serious. I changed my shoes and walked over, but didn't sit down, just stood there. Fang Jingshu flipped the paper over for me to see. It was a leave of absence application form. The header of Huaqing University already has half of the required information filled in. The student signature line is left blank. Sign it. Fang Jinshu looked up at me. Your father has already called the school, saying they can keep your enrollment status for a year. You can stay home and take care of your mom's treatment, and it'll be the same if you go next year. Yes, I called. Gu Yuanjing chimed in quickly. They said special circumstances allow for retention. Fu Xiaolan butted in. Just 1 year, between your mom's life and 1 year. Which one do you choose? Fang Jinhua nodded beside her. Fang Jinshu pushed the piece of paper toward me with her hand. Mom won't force you, you choose yourself. A pen lay on the table. The words exploded, one line after another, rolling faster than ever before. Fang Jinshu's final obstruction plan initiated. Moral siege plus familial emotional blackmail plus institutional tools. Triple pressure applied. If Shi Ning signs, suffering value instantly plus 800. Victory completely secured. Original plot. Shi Ning compromises and signs under everyone's pressure. Tears streaming down her face. Drops out of school and returns home. Afterward, Fang Jinshu will continuously extend the treatment period until Shi Ning misses all enrollment windows. Shi Ning's life trajectory will be permanently altered. I stared at that piece of paper, black characters on white paper, stamped with the school's seal. The blank signature line gaped like an open-mouthed trap. Everyone in the living room was watching me. Fang Jinshu's tears finally fell again, one drop hanging perfectly on her cheek. Ningning, please, I don't want to die. I want to live a few more years, to see you get married. Fu Xiaolan's lips trembled. Gu Yuanjing's hand rested on his knee, fingers twisting the fabric of his pants. Fang Jinhua looked down at her phone, pretending not to care, but her ears were perked up. I stood there, looking at Fang Jinshu for 5 seconds, then I picked up the pen. Fang Jinshu's breathing noticeably eased. Fu Xiaolan's lips curved up slightly. I wrote a line of text in the blank space next to the signature area. Then I put down the pen and turned the paper around to face everyone. I won't sign. The moment those 3 words left my mouth, I could almost see my past self, trapped at home, lifting her head from the darkness. Fang Jinshu's smile froze on her face. But I've written a few words, you can take a look. On the paper, my handwriting was neat and orderly. My tuition and living expenses don't require a single cent from home. The full scholarship from Huaqing University is 60,000 yuan per year. enough to cover my 4 years of tuition and basic living costs, the remaining money each year I'll send back home for my mother's treatment, but if I sign this leave of absence application, that 60,000 yuan will be gone. I'm at home now, and I can't earn that money. You calculate it. Which option is more worthwhile? The living room was so quiet you could hear the sound of the air conditioner's vent. Fu Xiulan's expression changed, shifting from ashen to hesitant. Fang Jinhua slowly lowered the phone in his hand. Gu Yuanzheng lowered his head. Only Fang Jinshu. The smile on her face gradually crumbled away. She hadn't anticipated this step. The floating text finally drifted away with one last line. Fang Jingshu's final counterattack plan failed. I picked up the leave of absence application form from the coffee table, folded it in half, then folded it again. I stuffed it into the sundries basket under the coffee table. High-speed train at 7 a.m. tomorrow, no need to see me off. I grabbed my backpack and headed toward my room. As I passed the hallway, I noticed that Gu Yao's door was slightly ajar. Her eyes peered through the crack of the door, bright. Her lips pressed tightly together. I didn't stop. I closed the door to my room and leaned my backpack against the suitcase. My phone vibrated. A text message. Ning, you think you've won? No signature. The number is unfamiliar, but I know who it is. The floating text flickered for a moment at the end. The characters were blood red. Fang Jinshu urgently adjusted the strategy. The new plan is codenamed Lone Net. Execution time. After Ning arrives at Tsinghua University. The text cut off here, dissipated in the light of the room. I stared at that blank space for a long time. Forget about her plans. In my previous life, she locked me up for 8 years with a piece of paper. In this life, no paper can hold me. 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, I'm leaving. Chapter 11. The high-speed train arrives on time. The sunlight was blinding as I exited the station. I pulled my suitcase through the crowd and took a taxi straight to school. A long line stretched in front of the main gate of Huaqing University. The banner for the new student registration was hung in front of the administrative building, and everywhere were parents carrying large bags and small packages. I was the only one. No one came to see me off. In my previous life, Fang Jinshu sat on the hospital bed, crying and asking me, Ningning, are you really going to leave Mom? I couldn't bring myself to leave the house. This life, I stood at the entrance of Huaqing, dragging my suitcase by myself. No one came to see me off. It doesn't matter. Check in, collect dormitory keys, get a meal card, submit materials. Everything was taken care of in one morning. The dormitory is on the 4th floor of Building 7, a 4-person room. 2 of the 3 roommates had already arrived. One is named Jiang Nan, very talkative, and started introducing herself as soon as she walked in. I'm from Zhejiang, liberal arts major. My score isn't particularly high, but it's enough. Luckily, I applied early. Haha. The other is named Mu Qing, wearing black-framed glasses, quiet, just nodded at me and went back to making her bed. I chose the lower bunk by the window and stuffed my suitcase inside. My phone vibrated. Gu Yuanjing sent a message. Have you arrived? Yes. No reply after that. After organizing my things, my phone vibrated again on the way downstairs to eat. An unknown number. The text message had only one line. Did your check-in go smoothly? Mom is waiting for you at home. Fang Jinshu. I took a screenshot of the message and saved it in my notes. Then locked the screen. Floating characters drifted in a line at the cafeteria entrance. Fang Jinshu remote phase initiated. Codename Lone Net. Phase 1. Cut off Ning's social support in the new environment. Specific methods. Not yet deployed. Currently collecting target environment information. I carried my tray and found a corner to sit down. A boy sat across from me, typing on a laptop. He glanced up at me, then looked back down. 1 minute later, I looked up again. Freshman, yeah. From the School of Finance, yeah. Me too. Sophomore. He turned his laptop around to show me the screen. The student union is recruiting new members. Interested? I glanced at the screen. No, thanks. He let out an oh, and didn't ask further. On the way back to the dorm after dinner, Jiang Nan caught up with me. Ning, where are you from? From Heian province. Oh, that's so far away. Didn't your family come to see you off? No. Then you're really amazing, going it alone like that. She casually hooked her arm through mine. Come on. Let's go explore the campus tonight. I saw on the map there's a lake. I didn't refuse. This carefree enthusiasm made me feel relaxed. Back in the dorm at night, the 4th roommate arrived, a girl wearing designer sneakers, with permed hair and matte red lipstick. She stood in front of her bed, glanced around the dorm room, and frowned slightly. Hello, I'm Song Wani. Her tone was polite, but her chin was held high. She opened 2 suitcases, hung up the clothes inside, and piled the rest Directly on top of the cabinet, Jiang Nan leaned in. Wow, you have so many clothes. This jacket looks really nice. Song Wani smiled but didn't respond. Her gaze fell on the old suitcase on my bunk, lingering for a second, then she looked away. That second was very brief, but I saw it. The floating words are very quiet now. Nothing is drifting. What's coming will come. No rush. Chapter 12. The first week of school. Everything is normal, attending classes, eating, returning to the dormitory. I got a library card and went to the study hall every evening until closing time. I've already checked the scholarship evaluation criteria, GPA ranking, published papers, competition awards, and social practice, weighted according to proportion. Freshmen can apply for the first-class scholarship, with very few spots available, requiring a GPA in the top 5%. This is my livelihood. No mistakes can be made. On Friday afternoon, the academic advisor notified us of the freshman orientation for the School of Finance. In the lecture hall, over 200 people from the grade had arrived. I didn't really listen to what the dean said for 10 minutes. I remembered one thing. At the end of the first semester of freshman year, there was a school-wide, emerging talent forum, competition, and those selected would directly receive bonus points for comprehensive evaluation. The bonus points for comprehensive evaluation directly affect scholarships. In other words, it's a shortcut. I was walking at the back when the meeting ended. The first 3 rows were occupied by the student council members, and someone called my name as I passed by. Are you Ning? I turned around. A girl with a high ponytail, wearing light makeup and a white blazer, her name tag read, Student Council President, Zhengnyenka. She walked over with a smile, her voice warm and friendly. I heard you're the 4th place student from Heian province this year. Yes. That's amazing. The dean was just mentioning you in the office, saying our department got a promising talent this year. After saying this, she paused and gave me a once-over. Do you want to join the student council? I'm short a vice chair for the academic department. No, thank you. Why not? My schedule is full. She let out an, oh, her smile unchanged. If you need anything, just let me know. She walked away. A boy beside me whispered to his classmate, she's 4th in the province. Pretty impressive. I didn't pay attention, packed my things, and left the classroom. On the way back to the dorm, my phone vibrated again. Fang Jinshu, Ningning, how has your week been? Mom had chemotherapy today and vomited 3 times, followed by a photo. She was sitting on the hospital bed, her face sallow, with an 4 cannula inserted into the back of her hand. The angle was well chosen. It just happened to capture the vomit basin on the bedside table. I enlarged the photo and stared at it for 2 seconds. The type of 4 catheter, the style of the hospital gown, the ward number plate, all of them matched the configuration of the city's first people's hospital. But I know that when she sat on that hospital bed, nothing was wrong with her body. Every time she vomited, it was an act. Every photo is carefully angled material. Floating text drifted across a line. Fang Jinshu continues to output illness information. Purpose, to maintain Ning's guilt value. Guilt value does not trigger suffering value, but can serve as an amplifier for subsequent suffering events. I didn't reply to the message. Entering the dorm, Jiang Nan was lying on the bed scrolling through short videos. Ning, you're back. Song Wani just said she's treating us to barbecue tonight. Wanna go? I'm not going. I'm heading to the library. You're really pushing yourself too hard. Mu Qing glanced at me from behind her glasses, her lips twitching slightly. She's saving up for a scholarship. Jiang Nan let out a soft, ah. How much is the first prize again? 60,000. 60,000. Song Wani came out of the bathroom, still drying her hands. Hearing the number, she paused mid-motion. 60,000 a year. That's quite a lot. She hung the towel back up and opened the wardrobe to pick out a dress for the evening. Let's go. I made a reservation. If we dawdle any longer, we'll be late. Jiang Nan jumped up to change her clothes. Mu Qing hesitated for a moment, then followed along. I was the only one left in the dorm. I turn on the desk lamp and open the introduction to finance. The phone screen is still lit, with Fang Jinshu's photo stuck in the chat window. I flipped the phone over, screen facing down. Chapter 13. The first semester of freshman year passed quickly. In mid-October, the topic selection notice for the new talent forum was released. Each person submits 1 research topic. After the initial review by the professor panel, those who advance will enter the defense round. 8 candidates will be shortlisted, with first, second, and third prizes ultimately awarded. The first prize adds 10 points to the comprehensive evaluation, creating a significant lead. I spent 3 days writing a research proposal, focusing on the empirical analysis of household debt structure among residents in small and medium-sized cities, with data collected from 2 weeks of field research I conducted during the summer in Hien Province. The data is real. At the time my mom was undergoing chemotherapy in the hospital, I'd accompany her in the mornings, and in the afternoons, I'd carry my questionnaire to stand outside communities and banks. Fang Jingshu probably thought I was just going out for some fresh air. She didn't know that during those 2 weeks, I had filled out more than 400 valid questionnaires. On the day of submitting the topic, the counselor announced in the group, a total of 47 topics have been received for this newcomer forum. The preliminary review results will be announced next week. Thursday evening, I was doing homework in the library. The phone vibrated. Gu Yao's message: "Big sister, are you busy?" I replied, "Speak, Mom, it's Aunt Fang. She's been in a bad mood these past 2 days." "What happened?" "She had an argument with Dad. She said you didn't even call or reply to a single message while you were at school." "Did she tell you that?" "Yeah, she asked me to tell you she misses you." I stared at the screen, motionless. After a while, Gu Yao sent another message: "Sister, I know the situation between you and Aunt Fang is complicated. I shouldn't interfere, but Dad has been under a lot of pressure lately." I typed 4 characters and sent it. "I understand." Then I locked the screen. The floating text drifted out under the dim light of the library. Fang Jinshu's second phase deployment: convey emotional messages through Gu Yao to indirectly apply pressure, simultaneously test Gu Yao's level of usefulness. Gu Yao's current state: passive messenger, not yet fully coerced. I closed the notebook. If Fang Jinshu could turn Gu Yao into her mouthpiece, then I would no longer have a neutral person at home. This move is being played neither too hastily nor too slowly. Just as I was thinking, someone sat down beside me. Song Wani. She was wearing a very expensive-looking cashmere coat today, holding a takeaway coffee. "What a coincidence, you're here too." I responded with a simple She turned on the computer, tapped a few keys, then stopped. She didn't look at the screen, she looked at me. "Did you sign up for the New Frontier Forum?" "Yeah." "What topic?" "The debt structure of residents in small and medium-sized cities." Her lips curved slightly. "Sounds pretty down-to-earth." The emphasis on down-to-earth was subtly pronounced. I didn't respond. She turned her gaze back to the screen. "I chose the asset protection mechanism of offshore family trusts. I went to Singapore with my dad during winter break and gathered a lot of first-hand information," she said without looking at me, but every word was meant for me. I continued writing my homework. "Pretty good," she said, then fell silent. The library closes at 10. On the way back to the dorm, Jiang Nan arrived before us and was sitting on the bed eating potato chips. "Have you heard? This year's Xinrui Forum has invited a big name from outside as a judge, the general manager of some fund company. I heard he's extremely strict." Mu Qing climbed into bed and pulled the covers over herself. "Strict is good, keeps the watered-down topics from sneaking in." Song Wani didn't reply, taking off her coat and hanging it in the closet, carefully adjusting the collar. Before getting into bed, I glanced at my phone. Fang Jingshu sent another message: "Ningning, Mom had her 4th round of chemotherapy today, and her white blood cell count has dropped significantly. The doctor said she needs to be hospitalized for observation." Then came another photo. This one was taken from the window, showing the hospital lights against the pitch-black night. Caption: "Mom is alone." I marked the message as read. No reply. "Turn off the light." Before closing my eyes, the floating text lit up the last line: "Fang Jinshu's emotional pressure frequency is encrypted. Prediction: if Ning continues to show no response, Fang Jinshu will escalate to the 3rd stage within 2 weeks. 3rd stage content: direct intervention in Ning's school environment." I closed my eyes. 2 weeks, enough for me to secure the preliminary review for the New Edge Forum. Chapter 14. The preliminary results were announced on a Monday. The counselor posted the list in the grade group chat. 8 people made the cut. I ranked 2nd. The first is Song Wani. The group chat exploded, with congratulatory messages flooding the screen. Someone privately messaged me: "Ning, you're amazing, making it to the shortlist as a freshman. Only you and Song Wani from our year are freshmen." I replied with a "thank you." In the afternoon, the 8 shortlisted candidates were called to a preparation meeting in the small conference room of the college office. The tables were arranged in a circle, 6 senior students, plus me and Song Wani. The counselor distributed the defense process. Each person had 15 minutes for presentation and 10 minutes for questions. 3 judges, 2 professors from the college and 1 external expert. The external expert's name flashed on the PPT: Han Zhengli, founding partner of Ruiyao Capital. When Song Wani saw the name, The corner of her mouth curved slightly. She was sitting diagonally across from me. Her peripheral vision glancing over, that glance was fleeting, but I caught it. After the meeting, Jiang Nan was waiting for me in the dormitory. I found out that Han Zhengli and Song Wanni's father are business associates. It seems the two families even invested in some project together. Mu Qing adjusted her glasses. Isn't Song Wanni guaranteed to win then? Jiang Nan shrugged. Who knows? Maybe they'll be fair. Mu Qing didn't speak, but glanced at me. I sat at my desk and began organizing my defense presentation. I went over the raw data from over 400 questionnaires, cross-tabulations, regression results, and charts, all of them again. At 11 o'clock at night, my phone vibrated. It wasn't Fang Jinshu, it was a call from an unknown number. I answered it. On the other end was a woman's voice, middle-aged, gentle, and polite. Is this Ning? Yes, hello. I'm a staff member from the Tsinghua University Alumni Foundation. We noticed that you are a high-scoring student in this year's college entrance exam from Heian Province and would like to discuss a support program for new students with you. What program? Our foundation selects a few new students each year who come from less privileged backgrounds but have outstanding academic achievements, providing them with additional living allowances and mentorship resources. Your name is on our candidate list. We'd like to schedule an in-person meeting with you at our office this week to learn more about your situation. Would that be convenient? I didn't agree right away. May I ask, how did you learn about my family situation? There was a brief pause on the other end of the line. We conducted a preliminary screening based on the information submitted by the school regarding students from economically disadvantaged backgrounds. Information regarding students from economically disadvantaged backgrounds. I didn't apply for any financial aid-related things when I enrolled. I didn't apply for the financial aid filing. There was another pause on the other end. It might have been added by the department. I'll verify it for you. Okay, thank you. The call ended. I stared at my phone screen, where floating text slowly drifted into view. Phase 3 of Fang Jingshu's plan, using Ning's campus identity for remote intervention, method of operation, through Gu Yuanjing's local network. Contact an administrative official at Huaqing University and register Ning as a poor student. Under the pretext of family hardship, objective, to label Ning as a poor student in the new environment. This label itself does not contribute to suffering points, but it will provide ammunition for future social attacks. I locked the screen. Fang Jingshu is in Heian Province, but her hand has already reached into the administrative system of Huaqing University. Tomorrow, I need to go to the department office first. Chapter 15. The next morning there were no classes. I went to the department office. Teacher Chen, who is in charge of student affairs, was there. Teacher, I'd like to check if there's any note in my student record indicating that I'm from a financially disadvantaged family. Teacher Chen clicked a few times in the system and then turned to look at me. Yes, it says special hardship family from the place of origin. Your enrollment materials included a family financial hardship verification form, signed by your father. I had never seen that form before. Can I take a look at that form? Teacher Chen rummaged through the file box and pulled out a sheet of paper. Gu Yuanjing's signature. I recognized it. But all the information on that form, the annual household income, the debt situation, and the supporting documents for the mother's serious illness, were all crafted by Fang Jinshu. Even the attached photocopy of the hospital diagnosis certificate was included. Late-stage gastric cancer. Teacher Chen, I request to withdraw this filing. Teacher Chen was taken aback. Revoke. This document wasn't submitted by me, and the content isn't entirely accurate, but your family situation is indeed. I currently don't need any subsidies that come with the identity of a financially disadvantaged student. If this identity affects scholarship evaluations, I don't need it either. I rely on my grades for evaluation, not on this. Teacher Chen looked at me for a few seconds, probably thinking this girl is a bit stubborn, but she still nodded. All right. I'll help you with the revocation process. Write a written statement yourself and submit it. Okay, I'll give it to you this afternoon. On my way out of the department office, I ran into Song Wanni. She was wearing a velvet jacket and holding a file folder, likely also here to take care of some business at the department office. She paused when she saw me, coming so early. Just some business. She glanced at the office sign and didn't ask further. How's your defense preparation going? Not bad. Good luck. She smiled briefly and walked into the office. That smile was very proper, so proper that there's not a single piece of unnecessary information. In the afternoon, while I was writing the withdrawal statement in the study room, my phone vibrated. Gu Yuanjing, what were you doing at the college office? Your teacher called and said you want to withdraw your status as a financially disadvantaged student. The message carried a tone of accusation. I sent a reply. that form wasn't filled out by me. Gu Yuanjing didn't respond for a long time. 10 minutes later, he sent another message. It was your mom who asked me to fill it out. She said that way you could get financial aid at school and ease the burden on our family. I don't need any aid. Can you stop always going against your mom? I didn't reply again. Floating text drifted across a line. Shi Ning blocked Fang Jinshu's third phase core deployment. Fang Jinshu is expected to adjust the strategic direction within 48 hours. I turned off my phone and continued writing the explanation. The revocation process is not difficult, however. Fang Jinshu's move reminded me of one thing: she doesn't need to be physically present. All it takes is a phone call, a form, a signature from her to change my situation hundreds of kilometers away. I must keep everything I can control firmly in my grasp: my grades, my identity, my information. None of it can fall into her hands. Chapter 16. The New Talent Forum Defense Day. The lecture hall was half full, with not only the 8 presenters but also students attending as observers and a few teachers from other departments. 3 judges sat in the front row. I had seen 2 of the professors from our own department, one with gray hair, the other younger, both wearing the emblem of the School of Finance. The third person, Han Zhengli, was about 50 years old, dressed in a sharp suit, sitting upright, with a stack of printed topic summaries placed in front of him. The defense was conducted in order of student ID numbers. The first 6 seniors' topics were conventional. Some focused on cross-border exchange rates, others on digital payments. When Han Zhengli commented, his tone was calm, occasionally mentioning things like, the data sample is too small, or, the logical chain isn't quite complete. Polite but unyielding. The 7th one is me. I walked up to the podium and opened the PowerPoint. There were no fancy templates, just plain white background with black text, and data tables took up more than half of the pages. Good morning, judges. My research topic is an empirical analysis of household debt structures among residents in third-tier cities. The data comes from field research conducted in 3 prefecture-level cities in Henan province during this summer vacation, with 428 valid samples. Someone in the audience whispered, "A freshman dares to do field research." I ignored it and continued speaking. 15 minutes used up to the 13th minute. The last 2 minutes are left for the conclusion. Research findings show that 62% of households in the sample cities have unnecessary debt, with 38% resulting from high-interest borrowing due to information asymmetry. The conclusion is, there are obvious structural blind spots in inclusive financial coverage in small and medium-sized cities. The PPT stops at the final slide. There was silence in the audience for 2 seconds. The professor with graying hair spoke first. Shi Ning, you conducted field research of this scale in your freshman year, and the sample size is sufficient. I just have one question. How did you obtain these data? The debt information of the respondents is very sensitive. Most people wouldn't readily share it. I replied. Through face-to-face interviews, I didn't ask them to provide specific figures. Instead, I used interval selection. Also, at the beginning of the questionnaire, I signed a confidentiality pledge, informing them that the data would only be used for academic research. Many people, upon hearing that a college student was conducting a survey, were willing to share. The professor nodded and didn't press further. Han Zhengli flipped through the printed draft in his hand. He looked up at me, pausing for a moment. This research direction, if pursued deeper, could connect with policy. Have you considered expanding it into a formal paper for submission? Yes. Which journal are you targeting? An interdisciplinary field of regional economics and inclusive finance. There are several core journals in China currently soliciting such submissions. His eyebrows twitched slightly, but his tone remained unchanged. Preparing to submit to a core journal in your freshman year, if the topic is strong enough, it makes no difference whether you're a freshman or a senior. Someone in the audience drew in a sharp breath. Han Zhengli stared at me for 2 seconds, a barely noticeable curve forming at the corner of his mouth. Good, next. The next person was Song Wani. She walked onto the stage with a steady gait, opened her PowerPoint presentation, beautifully formatted, with sophisticated color schemes and smoothly nested charts. Good afternoon, esteemed judges. My topic is the asset isolation mechanism of overseas family trusts and its applicability analysis in China. The data comes from on-site visits in Singapore during this year's winter break and desensitized case studies provided by 3 overseas trust institutions. The 15-minute presentation flowed seamlessly from start to finish. The reaction from the audience was more enthusiastic than during my round. A professor with graying hair praised her, saying she had a broad perspective. Han Zhengli's questioning also went 2 more rounds than with me, but, classmate Song Wani, Your case data sources were directly provided by trust institutions. May I ask, when obtaining this data, did you approach them as a student or through other channels? Song Wani paused for a moment, very briefly. My father's company has business dealings with these institutions, and he helped facilitate the introduction. However, the data itself has been anonymized according to academic standards. Han Zhengli did not press further, but he put down his pen. The defense ended, and the judges withdrew to deliberate. Half an hour later, the results came out. The counselor announced it from the podium. First prize, Shi Ning. Second prize, Song Wani. There was a moment of silence in the audience, then applause broke out. Jiang Nan, sitting in the third row, clapped vigorously, while Mu Qing, seated beside her, adjusted her glasses, a slight smile curling at the corners of her mouth. Song Wani clapped 3 times, then stopped. Her expression didn't change, but her phone vibrated inside the bag. She glanced down at the screen, then quickly shoved it back in. When the show ended, I left through the side door. Han Zhengli stood in the hallway talking on the phone. When he saw me, he raised his hand, signaling for me to wait a moment. After hanging up, he took out a business card from the inner pocket of his suit. Shi Ning, right? Yes. If you want to dig deeper into your topic, you'll need larger-scale data and empirical support. I happen to have a team working on a regional economic project that's short-staffed. He handed me the card. Contact me if you're interested after the semester starts. I took the card. Thank you, President Han. He nodded slightly, then turned and left. On the business card were 4 words, Ruiyao Capital. On the way back to the dormitory, a line of floating text appeared. New variable detected. Han Zhengli, founding partner of Ruiyao Capital, managing assets exceeding 20 billion. This individual has noticed Shi Ning and has signaled a direct intention to collaborate. Fang Jinshu is currently unaware of this matter, but Song Wani knows. I tucked the business card into the inner layer of my wallet. When we reached the dormitory door, Song Wani happened to arrive as well. She was carrying a takeout bag and stepped aside to let me go in first. Didn't say congratulations, didn't say anything else. She spoke only after entering the door. Did President Han give you his business card? Yes. He usually doesn't give business cards to freshmen. Really? Yes. Never before. She placed the takeout on the table, unwrapped the chopsticks, sat down, and began to eat. She no longer looked at me. Her phone lit up beside her. A message popped up on the screen. The sender's note read, Dad. She quickly turned it off. Chapter 17, The Results of the New Talent Forum spread throughout the department. It was already rare for a freshman to win first prize, let alone surpassing Song Wani. Song Wani's background isn't a secret in the School of Finance. Her father, Song Peiyuan, is the chairman of Wanyuan Group, originally from the real economy, who later ventured into the financial sector. Those who know this background react differently when looking at the rankings of the New Talent Forum. Some people deliberately let me hear them chatting in the hallway. Song Wani got second place despite having that kind of family background. Shows the judges are really fair. Others whisper privately, does Shi Ning have some connection with Han Zhengli? Otherwise, how could a freshman win? Whether these words reach my ears or not doesn't matter. I don't care. What I care about is something else. Tuesday afternoon, I went to the department office to pick up the receipt for the cancellation of my poor student registration. When Teacher Chen handed me the receipt, she added one more thing. Shi Ning, your registration has been cancelled, but the record in the school system still remains. That means, although you're no longer considered a poor student, the fact that you once applied can still be checked. I understand. When I left, I ran into Song Wani. This time, she wasn't coming from the department office, but was exiting the counselor's office. Seeing me, she gave a slight nod. Here for business again, just picking up a receipt. She hummed an acknowledgement and left, but after taking 2 steps, she stopped, as if remembering something. Shi Ning, about your poverty-stricken student record. I accidentally overheard Teacher Chen mention it to the counselor. She looked at me, her expression calm. None of my business, but if others find out, there might be some unpleasant talk. Be careful yourself. With that, she left. I stood in the hallway, thinking for 3 seconds, was she warning me or was she telling me? She already knew. The difference between these 2 possibilities is quite significant. When I returned to the dorm, Jiang Nan gave me a piece of news. Do you know that Zheng Nianka from the student council, the one who asked you to join before? I know. She praised you in the student council group chat today, saying that the New Edge Forum brought honor to our dean. Then someone replied underneath, I heard this Shi Ning's family is not well off and applied for financial aid back then. Jiang Nan handed me her phone screen to show me the chat screenshot. that someone was anonymous, but the outline of the avatar looked familiar to me. Mu Qing leaned down from the top bunk. Was it someone from Song Wanni's side who spread it? Hard to say. I handed the phone back to Jiang Nan. It's fine, I've already withdrawn the financial aid application, but others don't know you withdrew it. Those who want to know will check, those who don't. Nothing we say will matter. Jiang Nan sighed. You really don't let things get to you. I suppose I really don't let things get to me. It's not that I don't care, it's just that what I care about is different. What I care about is not how others view my family background. What I care about is that, even though Fang Jinshu is far away in Heian province, the poverty-stricken student application form she created has now become a hidden landmine on campus, and Song Wanni, whether or not she was the one who leaked that information, is already standing right next to this landmine. At night, I studied in the library until 9:30. On my way out, I ran into someone at the stairwell, Jingnienka. She was holding a bag of printed materials and smiled when she saw me. Ning, I was just looking for you. What is it? There's an external presentation event by the student union at the end of the year. The department wants to send 2 representatives to speak on stage. I've nominated you. I'm not in the student union. You don't need to be. You're an outstanding new student representative from the department. This qualification is enough. She leaned in closer, lowering her voice. The other spot is for Song Wanni. You two will go up together, the dean personally decided. I looked into her eyes. All right, she patted my shoulder. Don't worry, it's just a presentation speech. Nothing difficult. I'll send you the materials. She walked away. On the way back to the dormitory, a line of floating text appeared. New event triggered. Participants in the year-end public event include school leaders, corporate representatives, alumni foundation members, and others. Song Wanni will be on stage with Ning. Fang Jingshu doesn't know about this yet, but someone will let her know. The last line changed color. Guyao called Fang Jingshu today. Duration, 26 minutes. Chapter 18. The next day at noon, Guyao sent a message. Sister, Aunt Fang said you won first prize at school. She's very happy. I glanced at it. How did she know? She said someone at school told her. Someone she knows. Fang Jinshu's connection through Gu Yuanjing's local network was indeed still functioning. She pushed the issue of the poor student to the forefront, and she also obtained the news from the new talent forum. She wove a web outside and it stuck to me. I looked back at Yao. How's her chemotherapy going? The indicators were okay last week. The doctor said it's under control for now. Good. I closed the chat window. I had a class in the afternoon, the midterm for Introduction to Finance. After the exam, Song Wanni was waiting at the classroom door. She wasn't waiting for me, but for one of her friends. But when she saw me coming out, she called me over. Ning, what direction are you planning to talk about for the public event? Not decided yet. The dean said we should each present different angles. I'm thinking of focusing on the international perspective. If you go with empirical research, it might complement it better. Okay, she nodded. Her friend walked over. A girl in a coat glanced at me, and whispered something into Song Wanni's ear. Song Wanni's expression didn't change, and she shook her head slightly. The girl looked at me again, with a scrutinizing gaze. I'm leaving. At the library in the evening, a message popped up on my phone. Fang Jinshu, Ningning, Mom heard you're doing really well at school. Mom is really proud of you, followed by another paragraph. It's not easy for you out there, Mom knows. If you need money, just tell Mom, and I'll scrape together every penny I have. I stared at this message for 5 seconds. Sell everything you have. A person who holds suffering points and whose cancer is entirely fake, telling me to sell everything I have. I didn't reply, but then the second message came. Ningning, there's one more thing. Mom recently received a call saying you have an external event at school. If it's convenient, I'd like to come see you. My finger paused on the screen. She wants to come to Huaqing. In my previous life, she kept me trapped in Heian, and I never even set foot through the gates of Huaqing. Now, just as I've found my footing in this life, she's already chasing after me. The floating text exploded out. Fang Jinshu Phase 4 initiated. Personally enter the target environment. Plan, visit Tsinghua University under the pretext of visiting daughter. Create a hardship incident at the public exhibition event. Specific method, unknown, but Fang Jinshu has already purchased a plane ticket to this city for next Wednesday. Accompanying personnel, Gu Yuanjing. I put down my phone. She is coming. This time, it's not remote control from hundreds of kilometers away. It was face to face. I sent a message back. No need to come. The event is not open to the public. 3 minutes later, Fang Jinshu replied with a single word. Okay. But the floating text told me that her plane ticket hadn't been refunded. Chapter 19. 3 days before the event, the counselor notified me and Song Wani to attend a coordination meeting at the college office. Upon arriving, I realized the dean was also there. The dean, surnamed Zhou, was in his 40s and spoke quickly. This year's external presentation is of a higher standard than in previous years. The school leadership has sent the vice president in charge, 5 companies have sent representatives, and the Alumni Foundation has also sent people. Both of your speeches will directly represent the image of our School of Finance, he said, looking at me and Song Wani. I've reviewed your scripts, and the content is fine, but pay attention to natural delivery, don't just read from the script. I nodded, Song Wani also nodded. Dean Zhou added another sentence, Han Zhengli will also be coming, he's a trustee of the Alumni Foundation. Song Wani's eyes flickered slightly. After the meeting adjourned, Song Wani walked beside me. There was a few seconds of silence. Han Zhengli seems to have a good impression of you, just met him once at the New Talent Forum. One meeting is enough. If he doesn't approve of someone, he won't even give them a business card. So what? She glanced at me. Nothing much, just reminding you, on the day of the event, he'll be sitting in the front row. Your performance will determine whether his judgment of you is sustainable. That's something I should say. What do you mean? Han Zhengli has a business partnership with your father, that's why your performance on that day needs to be even more sustainable. Song Wani stopped walking. She stared at me for a second, then she gave a slight smile. You're different from the other freshmen. How so? You're not afraid of trouble. She walked away. The night before the event, I was checking the speech draft in the dorm. The phone vibrated. Guyao, sis, Aunt Fong and Dad are flying out tomorrow. How do you know? Aunt Fong asked me to help her pack. What did she say? She said she wants to visit you at school. She also brought your favorite date cake. Date cake? I really did love eating date cake when I was little. When I was 7, Fong Jinshu baked a tray of date cakes for me. I ate half the tray and started having diarrhea in the middle of the night. It turned out to be a salmonella infection, and I was on an 4 drip in the hospital for 3 days. Fong Jinshu cried for 2 days, saying she didn't pay attention to hygiene while cooking. Floating text drifted across a line. Review of the 7-year-old jujube cake incident involving Fong Jinshu. Salmonella was artificially implanted. Suffering value +60. I put down my phone. Sister, are you still there? Yes. Do you not want them to go? I thought for a moment. Yao Yao, I need your help. What help? After Aunt Fong arrives, send me her itinerary, where she goes, who she meets, what she says. Why, do you trust me? There was a long silence on the other end. I believe you, then help me, okay? I locked the screen. The floating text finally drifted away with one last line. Guyao's faction status update, leaning toward Shining, but Fong Jinshu hasn't noticed yet. Chapter 20. The day of the event, the tiered lecture hall was packed with people. The first 2 rows were occupied by school leaders, corporate representatives, and Alumni Foundation members. Han Zhengli sat in the second seat on the right, his suit as impeccably tailored as last time. The middle rows were occupied by representatives and teachers from various departments. Behind them were students attending as observers. Song Wani and I sat in the reserved seats on the side of the podium, separated by 1 seat. The vice president in charge spoke for 10 minutes. Then it was time for the departments to present. The School of Finance ranked 3rd. Dean Zhou gave a 5-minute briefing on the school's situation, then invited me and Song Wani to take the stage. Song Wani spoke first. Her PowerPoint presentation was as polished as ever, her delivery steady, her logic clear, and she cited 2 cases from Singapore, which indeed gave it an international perspective. There was scattered applause after she finished. Han Zhengli did not applaud. His fingers rested on the armrest of the chair, his expression blank. It was my turn. I walked to the center of the podium, but didn't open the PPT. Hello everyone. My name is Shining, a freshman at the School of Finance. Today I won't talk about theory, I'll tell a true story. This past summer, I conducted field research in a 3rd-tier city in Heian province. One afternoon, I knocked on the door of a family that had transitioned from rural to urban status. The male head of the household was a taxi driver, 61 years old. His wife had diabetes, and her monthly medication cost over 2,000 yuan. His annual income was less than 40,000. I asked him, "Have you considered taking out a loan from the bank to help with cash flow?" He replied, "Banks don't lend to people like us." I asked, "Why not?" He pulled out a stack of papers, repayment statements from a certain online lending platform, with interest compounding. He had been repaying for 3 years, yet the principal had not decreased at all. a few people in the audience began to sit up straight. I continued my story. It took 8 minutes, not a single word was wasted. Every piece of data came from those over 400 questionnaires, every example was heard by me face to face. Finally, I stood still. The financial problems of families in small and medium-sized cities are not in textbooks, but in the driver's seat of taxis, at the counters of pharmacies, and in neighborhoods that banks are unwilling to enter. Thank you. The audience fell silent for 2 seconds, then the applause was twice as loud as the previous round. Han Zhengli clapped 3 times, not many, but very clear. As she stepped down, Song Wani's gaze swept over me, her lips pressed together, but she said nothing. During the break in the event, I went to the hallway to get some water. The phone vibrated. Guyao, sister. Aunt Fong has arrived, she's at the entrance of your school now. My hand paused on the water dispenser button. What is she doing? She took a taxi directly here. Dad is waiting at the hotel. She said she wanted to go straight to the event site to find you. Can she get in? She told the security guard she was your mother, coming from another province specifically to see you. The guard had her register and let her in. I put down my water cup. Floating text exploded. Fang Jingshu has entered the Huqing University campus. Target, External Exhibition Activity Hall. Straight line distance to the hall, 400 meters. Estimated arrival time, 8 minutes. I turned and walked toward the hall. The second half of the event was about to start in 20 minutes. As I reached the entrance of the auditorium, a figure appeared at the far end of the corridor. Fang Jingshu. She was wearing a dark gray thin coat, with a scarf around her neck. Her face, even with makeup, was a sickly yellow, and her hair was thinner than the last time I saw her. When she saw me, her eyes instantly turned red. Ningning, she approached, her steps unsteady, moving with the careful caution typical of a patient. Mom came to see you. She reached out to grab my arm. I took a step back. What are you doing here? Mom misses you. I couldn't stay at home any longer, so I just wanted to see how you're doing at school. Tears were already welling up in her eyes. Her voice choked. Ever since you left, Mom hasn't been able to sleep a wink. Chemotherapy is so unbearable, but I grit my teeth and endure. Someone passed by in the hallway, glancing at us. A person who looked like a teacher slowed their pace, their expression filled with sympathy. Fang Jingshu's sobbing grew a bit louder. Ningning, Mom won't cause you any trouble. I just wanted to see you at the door and then leave. The floating words drifted out. Fang Jingshu's current operation, creating the image of a sickly mother traveling thousands of miles to visit her daughter. In a public setting, any witness will form a moral judgment unfavorable to Shi. If Shi appears indifferent, she will be labeled as cold-blooded and unfilial by those around her. If Shi shows signs of softening, Fang Jingshu will seize the opportunity to enter the event site and create a larger-scale tragedy. I looked at Fang Jingshu. She stood under the corridor light, tears clinging to her face, her body leaning slightly forward, like a piece of paper that could be blown away by the wind at any moment, but I knew that beneath that piece of paper lay a sheet of steel. Mom, go wait in the lounge first. I'll come find you after the activity. Fang Jingshu's tears paused for a moment. You won't let Mom in to watch. The activity doesn't allow outsiders. Mom isn't an outsider. Mom is your mother. Her voice rose just enough to make passers-by glance over again. Mom will just sit in the last row, take one look at you, and leave. I looked at her. Silence for 3 seconds. The lounge is the second door on the right. There's water inside. You go sit down first. I'll be right there. Fang Jingshu's mouth moved, wanting to say something more, but footsteps came from the end of the corridor. Dean Zhou was walking over from that direction. I turned to meet her. Dean Zhou, when does the second half start? 10 minutes left. Your speech was well received. Han Zhengli just mentioned you to me. I nodded and followed Dean Zhou toward the lecture hall. Fang Jingshu stood in the corridor, watching my back. Her tears stopped, but the corner of the mouth, that curve flashed for less than a second. The floating text drifted behind me for one last line. Fang Jingshu won't go to the lounge. She'll find another way into the lecture hall. I put my phone in my pocket. Perfect, since she came to me willingly. I'll tear down her stage in front of everyone she most wants to exploit. Chapter 21, 5 minutes into the second half. The back door of the auditorium creaked open. That door wasn't used much, and the sound wasn't loud, but I had been waiting for it with my ears. I didn't turn around. Sitting at a position beside the podium, I could catch a glimpse of the last row in the auditorium from the corner of my eye. Fang Jingshu sat down. She chose the seat farthest to the side, hunching her shoulders and pinching the end of her scarf with her fingers, a very proper and understated demeanor, so low-key that anyone who saw her would think, this is a mother seriously ill. traveling a long distance to see her daughter, not wanting to disturb anyone. On stage, the presentation from the School of Management was underway. No one around noticed an extra person in the back row, but I knew. The floating text lit up for a moment. Fang Jinshu has entered the lecture hall. Current status, standby, awaiting the optimal trigger moment. After the School of Management's presentation, it was time for the free exchange session. Representatives from each department stepped down from the stage, while corporate representatives and alumni left their seats to mingle, exchanging greetings and chatting in the exhibition area at the front of the hall. This was the most relaxed part of the event. It's also the time when things are most likely to go wrong. I stood in front of the display board at the School of Finance, with a printed copy of my research report in front of me. Han Zhengli walked over. Ning, Mr. Han. I had my assistant review your research report. The data section on high-interest loan traps is solid, thank you. After the next semester starts, come to my office. I have a project I'd like you to participate in. A few teachers from other departments nearby overheard and their expressions shifted slightly. Han Zhengli saying, "Come to my office," to a freshman at Huaqing is no small matter. I hadn't had time to respond yet. A voice came from behind. It wasn't loud, but it was enough for the 5 or 6 people around to hear. Ning, Fang Jinshu. I turned around. She stood about 3 meters away from me, tears on her face, holding a thermal bag in her hand. Mom brought you some date cake, your favorite when you were little. I made it at home, flew 4 hours to bring it here. Her voice trembled, and she looked utterly fragile. The people around stopped talking and turned to look. A teacher showed a look of pity. Han Zhengli also turned his head and glanced at Fang Jinshu. Fang Jinshu took a step forward and raised her hand to touch my face. Ning, Mom knows you're busy. I won't keep you. I just miss you so much. I've been enduring the chemotherapy alone, and when the pain hits at night, I think of you. Her tears fell onto the floor, her voice growing increasingly choked. Your dad is useless. I can't rely on him for anything. I just wanted to see how you're doing. One of the female teachers had already taken out a tissue and handed it over. Is this your mother? Your mother came to see you. Why aren't you helping her? The floating text popped up frantically. Fang Jinshu's hardship scenario constructing, public environment plus authoritative figures present plus mother-daughter affectionate persona. If Ning refuses or acts coldly, she will be labeled as unfilial in front of all present. Everyone will sympathize with Fang Jinshu and question Ning. Fang Jinshu's hardship value estimated, plus 300 or more. I looked at Fang Jinshu, watching her tears, her trembling, her jujube cake, then I spoke. My voice was not loud, steady. Mom, your illness is fake. In my previous life, I was choked by these 3 words for 8 years. In this life, I handed the knife to her own hands in front of the teacher, alumni, and leaders she most wanted to exploit. The air in the lecture hall froze. Fang Jinshu's tears caught halfway. What? Ning, what are you saying? Your gastric cancer diagnosis is fake. Your chemotherapy reactions are fake. The sallow complexion on your face right now is the result of makeup. My voice was flat. Everyone around froze in place. The female teacher who handed over the tissue stood with her mouth agape, unable to close it. Han Zhengli set down the coffee cup in his hand. Fang Jinshu's expression finally changed, not a collapse, but a crack. The expression when that carefully maintained shell develops a crack. Her lips moved twice. Ning, how could you say that to your mom? Didn't you see Mom's diagnosis report? The hospital's stamp. I took out my phone from my pocket and opened a file. It was something I had asked a classmate in Heian province to look into 2 weeks ago. The chemotherapy schedule and bed occupancy records from the oncology department of the city's First People's Hospital. Fang Jinshu's name didn't appear on any official chemotherapy bed schedule. Her chemotherapy was all done in the outpatient clinic, sitting for hours with an indwelling needle connected to and 4 drip. What was probably just saline solution being administered. Your name isn't on the chemotherapy schedule. I turned my phone screen toward her. Your chemotherapy was done in the outpatient clinic, not through the proper oncology department procedures. Fang Jinshu's hands began to tremble, not the kind of trembling for show. It was real. How did you think I wouldn't be able to investigate once I went to college? I put away my phone. Mom, your act has gone on long enough. No one around was speaking anymore. Everyone was looking at Fang Jinshu, including Han Zhengli. Fang Jinshu's face turned pale, then flushed red, her lips trembling, unable to utter a single word. She clutched the insulated bag and took a step back, another step back, then she suddenly turned and pushed open the back door. Her footsteps were fast, as if she were running. The lecture hall fell silent for a full 5 seconds. The female teacher glanced at me, then at the door, and slowly put the tissue away. Han Zhengli picked up his coffee cup and took a sip. He looked at me without saying a word, but something in his gaze had changed. It wasn't sympathy, it was something else. The floating words drifted slowly before my eyes. Fang Jingshu's public image collapsed in front of everyone, witnesses on site, vice principal, Han Zhengli, Dean Zhou, and approximately 80 teachers and students present. Fang Jingshu's gain in suffering value this time, 0. Fang Jingshu's reputation loss, irreversible. Shi Ning's reputation change, unknown. Further observation required. I stared at the words, gain, 0, and irreversible, and for the first time, I tasted a real sense of satisfaction. In her previous life, she relied on my tears to make money. This life, I will make her lose money every time she acts. I returned to the front of the display board and adjusted the position of the printed report slightly. Her hand didn't tremble. Chapter 22. The day after the event ended, things escalated. With so many people present, it was impossible for the incident not to spread. The group chat for the School of Finance erupted in chaos. Did Shi Ning really say in front of all those leaders at the event that her mother was faking illness? Wasn't it just pretending? Is it true or not? I saw it with my own eyes. Her mother turned pale and ran off. That's too harsh, exposing her own mother in public like that. There were all kinds of opinions. About half of the people sided with Jiang Shu, feeling that even if the mother had a problem, it shouldn't have been brought up publicly in such a setting. There were also some who sided with me, but their voices were quieter. They thought if the cancer was indeed fake, then this mother was truly outrageous, but most people were just watching for entertainment. At lunchtime, Song Wani sat across from me. She put down her tray and wiped her hands with a tissue. Everyone in the school is talking about you. Did you know she was coming? I glanced at her but said nothing. She raised an eyebrow. If you knew in advance, then your actions yesterday weren't impulsive. They were planned. How can you be so sure? Because when you were saying those things, the evidence on your phone was already prepared. No one could pull up chemotherapy scheduling records on the spot. She paused here. Shi Ning, you're more complicated than I thought. Are you complimenting me or are you wary of me? Both. She picked up her tray and stood up. But let me remind you of one thing. Han Zhengli was there the whole time yesterday. Whether publicly turning against your own mother is a plus or minus in his eyes is hard to say right now. If he thinks you went too far, all the good impressions you've built up so far might reset to 0. She left. In the afternoon, Mu Qing told me another thing in the dorm. The counselor wants to see you. I went to the office. The counselor, surnamed Lu, was under 30, with a troubled expression. Shi Ning, there was a complaint from a teacher in the college about what happened at yesterday's event. What teacher? The teacher, Mr. Zhang, who handed your mother a tissue. She felt that your attitude toward your sick mother in public was too cold. She said she wanted to suggest to the college that the psychological counseling center have a talk with you. My mother isn't sick. Teacher Lu was taken aback. You mean, her cancer diagnosis was faked? She never had proper chemotherapy. I have proof. Teacher Lu's expression changed. Can you show me the evidence? I sent her screenshots of the chemotherapy schedule from my phone and the bed occupancy information my classmates had helped me find. She looked at it for 2 minutes. If this is true, then my mother's performance at the event was intentional. Teacher Lu fell silent for a while. I'll report this to the principal first. You might still hear some rumors in the next couple of days. You, be prepared. I don't care, but others do. What she meant was, the school cares. I left the office. I ran into Zheng Nianke in the hallway. She stopped me and pulled me aside. Shi Ning, I saw everything in the group chat. Do you need me to help clarify things for you? No need. Why not? Those who should know the truth will find out. Those who shouldn't know, clarifying it won't help anyway. Zheng Nianke looked at me for 2 seconds, then sighed. Your personality, just a little more tactful would be better. Tact won't help me get a scholarship. She paused for a moment, then smiled. All right, then you handle it yourself. But if you need anything, just call me. Back in the dorm that night, Jiang Nan was the first to approach. Ningning, are you okay? Someone in the group said your counselor called you. I'm fine. That teacher Zhang really meddles too much. She doesn't even know what's going on in your family. Mu Qing added. It doesn't matter whether you know or not. What matters is the position. When a teacher sees a student publicly claiming her mother is faking illness, regardless of whether it's true or not, she has to step in. Otherwise, she can't be a teacher. She was right, so I don't blame teacher Zhang, I blame Fang Jinshu. She chose to appear in that situation precisely because she knew, in a public setting, everyone would side with the sick mother. She's used the word mother as a weapon for 18 years. The phone vibrated. Fang Jinshu's message. Ningning, Mom shouldn't have gone yesterday. It was my fault, but you saying that about me in front of so many people really hurt my heart. The second one, whether you believe it or not, Mom's illness is real. The diagnosis report is genuine. I wouldn't lie to you about my own life. The third one, Mom is going back to Heian tomorrow. I won't cause you any more trouble. 3 messages, logically clear, admit fault first, then express grievance, and finally retreat to advance. Each one is a weapon. I marked the message as read and didn't reply. The floating text finally drifted away with one last line. Fang Jinshu appears to have retreated, but in reality, she has entered the 5th phase of preparation. She needs time to process the impact of this public failure, but she won't stop. The deficit of suffering is too great. She can't afford to stop. Chapter 23. 1 week after Fang Jinshu left, things did not settle down as I had expected. Instead, they continued to ferment. The reason was that what happened at the event that day was posted on the campus forum. The post was titled, "Finance School Freshman Publicly Exposes Her Mother for Faking Illness." What do you think? The post was written in a restrained manner, without taking a stance, but the comments section erupted into heated arguments. Some say I'm cold-hearted and ruthless, others say I'm brave and clear-headed. One comment received the most likes, regardless of whether her mother was actually sick or faking it. The fact that she chose to publicly expose her mother during a school event shows she has no concept of family ties. Would you dare to be friends with someone like that? The second most liked comment said, "You're moralizing. If her mother really faked cancer and deceived her for 18 years, that's not cold-heartedness. It's self-preservation." The post stayed on the forum for 3 days before the administrator locked it, but the damage had already been done. Walking around campus, I occasionally catch the gaze of strangers. Some were curious, some were scrutinizing, and some wore an expression of, "So it's really her." It was even more evident within the School of Finance. Some classmates would suddenly change the subject when I approached. Some deliberately kept their distance from me. Some people even said behind my back, "No wonder she worked so hard to earn scholarships. Given her family situation, who wouldn't?" I didn't care about any of that. What I cared about was something else. On Wednesday afternoon, Teacher Lu called me to her office. "Ning, the dean spoke with me, regarding your mother's situation. The department's stance is, if your evidence is true, we understand your position, but we advise you to avoid handling family matters during the school's public events in the future." "I understand. There's one more thing." She took out a printed email. "This morning, the office received a letter. The sender is your father." I took it and read, a letter from Gu Yuanjing to the Finance College office. The content roughly stated, his daughter, Ning, publicly humiliated her seriously ill mother during an event, behaving inappropriately, and hoped the school would pay attention to students' moral education. He also attached a copy of Fang Jinshu's medical diagnosis certificate. It was stamped with the red seal of the City First People's Hospital, exactly the same as the one I had seen before. Teacher Lu looked at me. "What do you mean?" "I've seen this medical certificate before, but the chemotherapy schedule proves she never received proper chemotherapy treatment. One says she's ill, the other says she's never been treated. The hospital finds it hard to judge, so the hospital's opinion is, put it on hold for now. It won't affect your studies or awards, but if either side files further complaints later, the hospital may require you to provide more complete evidence." "All right." After leaving the office, I stood in the corridor for a while. Gu Yuanjing wrote a letter to the school. This step must have been arranged by Fang Jinshu. She stepped back herself, but pushed Gu Yuanjing forward to continue pressuring. Fang Jinshu's methods were never a one-time deal. She pushed layer by layer, like peeling an onion, each layer making you shed another round of tears. But I wouldn't shed tears. I returned to the dorm and opened my computer. Floating words drifted out. Fang Jinshu's 5th phase deployment. Exert pressure on the school through Gu Yuanjing to shake Ning's image in the eyes of the school administration. Simultaneously leverage campus public opinion to ferment and isolate Ning's social circle. Current effect, partially effective. Ning's negative image has been established among some teachers and students, but the key variable remains untouched, Han Zhengli's attitude. I opened my email on the computer. No new messages. Han Zhengli hasn't contacted me. Is he just busy? Or is he waiting and observing? The answer to this question will determine the direction of the next 6 months. In the evening, Gu Yao sent me a message. "Sister, Aunt Fang has been calling non-stop these past 2 days. Making a lot of calls." "Who did she call?" I only heard 2 names. One was Dad, and the other was a man surnamed Zhang. Aunt Fang calls him Teacher Zhang. My finger paused on the screen. Teacher Zhang, that's the female teacher who handed out tissues at the event. Fang Jinshu even got her contact information. One more thing. Guyao sent another message. Aunt Fang asked me today who you hang out with at school. How did you answer? I said I didn't know. Did she believe it? Seems not entirely. She told me to chat with you more. When I have time and get to know your situation better. Why do you think she wants to know about my situation? Guyao fell silent for a long time. Finally, she sent one last sentence. Big sister, is Aunt Fang trying to harm you? I stared at the sentence. No direct answer. Yao Yao, you just need to do one thing. Whatever she asks you, you tell me. Don't worry about anything else. Okay. I locked the screen. Chapter 24. Mid-December, 2 weeks before the final exams, I poured all my energy into studying. Scholarship evaluations are based half on comprehensive assessments and half on GPA. I had already secured the 10 points from the New Frontier Forum, but if my GPA didn't rank in the top 5%, it would all be for nothing. The study spots in the library were fully occupied by 6:30 every morning. I started going to empty classrooms in the teaching building, sitting alone until 11 p.m. Fang Jinshu hadn't sent any more messages during this time, neither had Gu Yuanzheng. The silence was abnormal. The floating text hadn't appeared for 3 days. Not gone, just no new events happening. Fang Jinshu is waiting for what? On Friday afternoon, Mu Qing tapped my desk, signaling me to check my phone. Your department group just sent a notification. I opened it. It was sent by the counselor. Attention all students, after verification by the school, some data in the student information system this semester has been found to have abnormal registrations, involving sensitive information such as the identification of family financial hardship. The school will conduct a unified investigation in the near future. Please cooperate with the relevant students. I read it twice. Identification of family financial hardship, a comprehensive investigation. The floating text suddenly popped up. Fang Jinshu's fifth phase net closing move. Through Gu Yuanzheng and Teacher Zhang's channels, she reported to the school that some information about impoverished students was falsified. After the school initiates the verification, they will uncover Shi Ning's record of being registered as an impoverished student. Though it has been revoked, the traces remain. Once this record is publicly interpreted as having attempted to fraudulently claim poverty subsidies, Shi Ning's reputation will suffer a severe blow. Fang Jinshu's real target is not the impoverished student label itself, but to burden Shi Ning with the label of having moral issues. Moral issues directly affect scholarship evaluations. I put down my phone. Fang Jinshu, you went through such a long and winding route. The poverty student registration form was filled out by Gu Yuanzheng at your request. Now you're reporting the falsification of poverty student information through other channels. You first labeled me, then tore that label off and showed it to everyone. You planted the mine yourself, and you detonated it. There was only one purpose, to make it impossible for me to stay at Huaqing University. I picked up my phone and sent a message to Teacher Chen. Teacher Chen, I need to talk to you in person about the verification of information for students from impoverished backgrounds. 5 minutes later, she replied, come next Monday. Then I sent a message to Teacher Lu. Teacher Lu, do you still have the letter my father sent to the department office? Yes, I do. Could you please keep it safe? I might need to provide further clarification. All right. Finally, I opened a new document. Title, Statement of Circumstances. I typed it out word by word. Organize every accident, from childhood to adulthood, including the time, location, consequences, Fang Jinshu's specific behavior at the time, and the content of the bullet comments afterward, all chronologically, without emotion, only facts. 18 years, one by one, in my previous life. I had no evidence and could only hear her admit it with her own words before I died. In this life, I won't wait until I'm on my deathbed. I typed for a full 3 hours, filling 9 pages. On the last line, I typed, in all the above incidents, my mother, Fang Jinshu, displayed emotional reactions consistent with those of a normal mother before and after the events occurred. However, based on the information I have obtained, these incidents were not accidents but premeditated harm. Save, backup to the cloud. Another backup was sent to Jiang Nan's email. Help me save it. It's fine even if you don't look at it, Jiang Nan replied with a question mark, then said, okay. Mu Qing turned over on the upper bunk. What are you typing? You've been typing for 3 hours. Insurance. She didn't ask further. Chapter 25. Monday, I went to see Teacher Chen. Teacher Chen's expression was not good. Shi Ning, to be honest, the verification matter is no longer entirely within my control. the school student affairs center has also gotten involved. I know. Your previous withdrawal of the poor student registration was procedurally normal, but now someone is questioning, your registration itself was fake, and you knowingly allowed it despite your family not meeting the criteria, only withdrawing it when you feared being investigated. The registration wasn't submitted by me, my father filled it out without my knowledge. Do you have evidence? I have evidence. I pulled up the chat records on my phone. It was Gu Yuanjing's conversation with me, the message where he personally said, "It was your mom who asked me to fill it out." Teacher Chen looked at it, then she sighed. This screenshot can be used as a reference, but the school will follow formal procedures. You need to write a written statement and sign it. I've already written it. I handed her the 9-page statement I had printed. Teacher Chen flipped through the pages, her expression subtly shifting. All of this is about your mother. Yes. What does this have to do with the poverty student verification? It's directly related. If the school wants to verify the authenticity of my family's situation, they need to understand the complete picture of my family. This document contains all the necessary information. Teacher Chen closed the file and glanced at me. Her gaze changed from the detached, procedural professionalism. It shifted into something indescribably complex. I will submit this material. But you need to be aware, if the school determines you have no issues, this matter will be over. What if the school thinks there is a problem? Your conduct score may be deducted. In severe cases, it could affect your eligibility for awards. That's not a problem with my conduct, I know, but the school's judgment may not entirely follow your logic. I stood up. Teacher Chen, thank you. Please let me know the outcome. After leaving the administration office, I walked to the corner of the teaching building. Floating text suddenly popped up, densely packed. The school's verification process is expected to take 1 to 2 weeks. During this period, Fang Jinshu will continue to exert pressure through multiple channels, but there is one variable Fang Jinshu hasn't accounted for. The floating text changed color. Han Zhengli made a phone call to Dean Zhou yesterday afternoon. The call lasted 11 minutes. The content is unknown, but after the call, Dean Zhou cancelled the originally scheduled preliminary review meeting for moral conduct scores. I stared at these lines until they faded away. Han Zhengli, he made a move. Why? The floating words gave me no answer, but that afternoon, when I walked into the cafeteria, Dean Zhou happened to be there too. He walked past me with his tray, glancing at me. He didn't stop, but he said one thing. The voice was so low, only I could hear it. Your research report has been recommended by Han Zhengli to the editor of a core journal. He asked me to tell you, focus on preparing for your final exams. And don't worry about anything else. Dean Zhou left. I stood at the entrance of the cafeteria, holding my tray, my hands steady, but my nose stung with a sudden sharpness. Very briefly, one moment, I stood in line to get food and chose the cheapest bowl of vegetable noodles. When I sat down to eat, someone had already taken the seat across from me. Song Wani. She put down her tray and unpacked her chopsticks. I heard the investigation has been suspended. I glanced at her. You're quite well informed. In the small courtyard changing room, news flies over without needing to be sought out. She took a bite of her food. Sure Ning, I'm going to say something I shouldn't. Go ahead. Your opponent isn't me. Your opponent is at home. I know, but you've brought the battle from home to school, not because you wanted to, but because your mother forced it. So the outcome of this battle isn't decided at school. She looked up at me. It's decided by when your mother completely stops. I put down my chopsticks. She won't stop. Why? Because she hasn't made enough money yet. Song Wani was taken aback. She probably didn't understand the meaning of that sentence. I didn't explain. After the meal, we each went our separate ways. Chapter 26. The final exams are over. The day the GPA was released was in mid-January. I was in the library when I refreshed the academic affairs system. Cumulative GPA. For 12, major ranking. First grade ranking. Second, the person in front of me was a male student from the School of Science who had a background in competitions. Within the School of Finance, I was definitely the top-ranked student, including the comprehensive evaluation bonus points, the 10 points from the new talent forum, and other activity points. The threshold for the first-class scholarship had already been met. At the end of January, the scholarship list was announced. First-class scholarship, 60,000 yuan. Sure Ning, in my previous life, Fang Jinshu used my suspension application to exchange for 800 hardship points. In this life, I used my GPA and comprehensive assessment scores to exchange for 60,000 yuan in scholarships. It's not a lot of money, but it's clean, and it belongs to me. A crowd gathered in front of the bulletin board. Someone took photos and posted them on WeChat Moments. Someone in the group said congratulations. I stood behind the crowd for a moment, then turned back to the dorm to pack my bags. I was going back to Heian province for winter vacation. Fang Jinshu was waiting for me. Before I left, Jiang Nan grabbed my arm. Are you going back? Will you be okay? I'll be fine. Mu Qing passed down a paper bag from the top bunk. Here, for you, eat on the way. Inside were 2 bags of bread and a carton of milk. I took it, thanks. Song Wani wasn't in the dorm. She had gone home 2 days early. Before leaving, she left a note on the table for me. The scholarship is well deserved. See you next semester. I tucked the note into my book, using it as a bookmark. 4.5 hours on the high-speed train. I arrived in Heian province in the evening. After exiting the station, I didn't take a taxi. I took a bus instead. It was almost 7 o'clock when I arrived home. The door was unlocked. I pushed the door open and went inside. The living room light was on, and a table full of dishes was laid out on the coffee table. Fang Jinshu came out of the kitchen wearing an apron, holding a plate of braised fish. Ningning is back. Go wash your hands and eat, she said with a beaming smile, as if nothing had happened. Gu Yuanjing sat on the sofa changing channels and gave a casual, When he saw me, Guyao poked her head out of her room and gave me a tight-lipped smile. Everything felt like a normal dinner in a normal family. I changed my shoes, washed my hands, and sat down at the table. Fang Jinshu pushed the dishes one by one toward me. This fish is cooked just the way you like it. Come on, eat more. And this soup, it's warm to drink in winter. She kept talking as she served me soup, her words flowing non-stop. You've lost weight, not eating well at school, right? Next semester, I'll send you some dried goods. Not a single word about what happened at school, as if wiped clean by an eraser. I ate the meal. The food was takeout from a restaurant, not made by Fang Jinshu herself. There was a restaurant sticker on the bottom of the plate. She even skipped the cooking scenes. Floating words drifted out. Fang Jinshu's current strategy: cold treatment, by creating the appearance of a harmonious family. Rebuild the good mother persona. At the same time, use the winter break to closely observe Sherning's condition and find new entry points for hardship events. After dinner, Gu Yuanjing went to wash the dishes. Guyao was wiping the table in the living room. Fang Jingshu sat on the sofa and patted the spot beside her. Ningning, come sit here, Mom wants to talk to you. I sat down, keeping a cushion's distance away. You got the first-class scholarship at school. Mom heard from your dad. 60,000 yuan. Mom is happy for you. She paused for a moment. Ningning, about what happened last time when Mom went to your school. Here it comes. Mom thought about it for a long time, and it was my fault. I shouldn't have shown up in that situation and caused you trouble. She lowered her eyes, her voice dropping. Mom apologizes to you. I looked at her profile under the light. Her complexion was much better than the last time I saw her at school. Her makeup was lighter, and she wasn't wearing a scarf. She looked like an ordinary middle-aged woman. Slightly tired. If it weren't for those floating words, if it weren't for the memories of those years, her apology would have sounded truly sincere. Mom, is your illness actually real? I asked this question. Fang Jinshu's eyelashes trembled slightly. Ningning, you've seen my diagnosis report. I'm not asking about the diagnosis report. I'm asking you, do you feel unwell in your body? She fell silent for 2 seconds. Yes. My stomach often hurts, and after eating, it feels uncomfortably bloated. After chemotherapy, I get dizzy and can't even walk steadily. You seem to be walking quite steadily now. Her smile froze for a moment. Since you came back today, Mom is happy and feels a bit more energetic. I didn't press further. I stood up. I'm going to take a shower. Go ahead. I walked into the bathroom and locked the door. The floating text drifted to the last line. Fang Jinshu's apology is a prerequisite action for the 6th stage. Subsequent arrangements need to be completed during the winter break. Core content: when Sherning lets her guard down, execute a high-suffering event. The scale of this event will far exceed any previous ones. I turned on the shower. The water was very cold. I stood under the water and rinsed myself from head to toe, then turned it off, dried off, dressed and came out. Guyao was standing in the hallway waiting for the restroom. Seeing me come out, she quickly walked over and leaned close to my ear. Sister, Aunt Fang made a phone call in the bedroom this afternoon. What did she say? I only heard one sentence. Guyao's voice was very low. She said, after the new year, let Ningning sign that document herself. Chapter 27. During the first half of winter break, Fang Jinshu behaved almost perfectly, cooking every day, switching from takeout to homemade meals, tidying up the house, and knitting scarves while sitting on the sofa watching TV. She knitted one for Gu Yao and one for me too, a deep red color. The yarn was very soft. When she handed it to me, she said, "Ningning, don't think it's ugly, Mom's skills have gotten rusty." I took it, not wearing it. The floating text was also very quiet those days, occasionally drifting by a line or two. Fang Jinshu's current status, lying low, no new preparations for hardship events detected. However, the signature plan remains on the schedule. Sign what? Gu Yao said she only heard that one sentence. I don't know the specifics, but I can guess the direction. A leave of absence application. That's unlikely. I already directly rejected one last semester, transferring assets. There's nothing of value at home, giving up what rights. This is the most likely possibility. I filled out my own college application. I earned my own scholarships. There's not much left that Fang Jinshu can make me sign away, unless what she wants me to sign has nothing to do with school. It has to do with her illness. On the 5th day of the new year, the answer was revealed. After dinner, Gu Yuanjing went out to find someone to play cards. Gu Yao was in her room doing her winter vacation homework. Only Fang Jingshu and I were in the living room. She turned off the TV and turned around. "Ningning, Mom has something to discuss with you." "Go ahead." "My illness. You know the situation. I have to prepare for the worst." She took a file folder out from the drawer under the coffee table. "This is Mom's will, and some documents for property entrustment." She pulled the papers out of the folder, 3 pages. The first page is a notarized will. I glanced at it, and the content reads, "All of Fang Jingshu's personal assets will be inherited by her daughter, Shi Ning, but must be managed by a designated asset manager, Gu Yuanjing, after Fang Jingshu's death, until Shi Ning reaches the age of 25. The second page is a power of attorney, roughly stating, during Fang Jingshu's treatment, Gu Yuanjing is authorized to manage all assets under her name, including an old house valued at over 1 million yuan. The third page is a voluntary support and care commitment letter. Party A, Shi Ning. Party B, Fang Jinshu. The core content is, Shi Ning promises to assume primary caregiving responsibilities during Fang Jinshu's treatment period, if, due to personal reasons, including but not limited to education, employment, etc., Shi Ning is unable to fulfill the caregiving obligations. Party A voluntarily waives the inheritance rights granted to Party B in the will. Definition of caregiving obligation: at least 15 days per month of in-person companionship at Fang Jinshu's place of residence. There are 2 signature fields at the end of the document. Fang Jinshu has already signed. My section is left blank. I finished reading the 3 pages. Fang Jinshu's expression was very gentle. "Ningning, this isn't Mom forcing you. Mom just wants. In case one day I'm no longer here, these things can be clear and straightforward." What does the third document mean? It's an agreement between you and me. If you take care of me, everything I have goes to you. If you don't take care of me, that's fine too, but the apartment and other assets will be handed over to your father to handle. She said it lightly, as if it were nothing, but the core clause of that commitment letter, translated into plain language, is, you must spend half of each month at home with me, otherwise, you won't get anything. And spending half of each month at home means I would have to take a leave of absence or drop out of school. It all comes full circle eventually. I still came to this point. In my previous life, I signed something similar. Back then, she cried and said it was just to reassure the relatives, so I didn't look closely and signed my name. Later, that piece of paper became the shackle that trapped me. This life, I can see every word clearly. The floating text lit up. Phase 6 Core Plan of Fang Jinshu, locking Shi Ning's caregiving obligations in legal documents. If Shi Ning signs, she won't be able to attend school normally and will be legally bound. If Shi Ning refuses to sign, Fang Jinshu will use this as evidence to prove to relatives and the school that Shi Ning is neglecting her seriously ill mother. Regardless of whether she signs or not, Fang Jinshu will gain suffering points, but signing brings higher suffering points. I placed the document back on the table. "Mom, who helped you draft this commitment letter?" Fang Jinshu paused, taken aback. "What's wrong? It doesn't seem like something you wrote yourself. Some of the words here are in the format of a legal document. You couldn't have written something like this on your own." Fang Jinshu's smile remained unchanged. "Mom asked a friend to take a look at it, just to make it more formal." "Which friend? You don't know her." "Fine." I stood up. "I won't sign it." Fang Jinshu's smile vanished. "Ningning, the real meaning of this commitment letter is to make me stay at home 15 days each month. That's impossible during school term. You know that. Can't you make some sacrifice for your mom? Her voice finally carried real emotion, not the kind that's acted out. It was the anger after being rejected, suppressed beneath her gentle skin. Ningning, is my life so worthless in your eyes? I looked at her. Mom, your life isn't on this piece of paper. Your life is fine. Her face turned pale. It really turned white. Not the kind of white from applying powder. What do you mean? I mean, you don't need me to sign this, because you won't die. The living room fell silent for a long time. Outside, the sound of firecrackers from the neighbor's house could be heard. Fang Jinshu's hand gripped the document, her fingertips turning white. She didn't cry, didn't make a scene, she just stared at me, for a long time. Then she put the document back into the file folder, stood up, and walked into the bedroom. The door closed, very light, but that sound was more unsettling than any door slam. The floating text drifted to the last line. Fang Jinshu was rejected, but she didn't explode. This means she still has a backup plan. Sure Ning, you denied her the thing she wanted most. She won't forgive this time. Chapter 28. The 6th day of the Lunar New Year. Fang Jinshu didn't get up. Gu Yuanjing knocked on her bedroom door for 5 minutes. A muffled response came from inside the room. Leave me alone, I'm not feeling well. Gu Yuanjing pushed the door open to find Fang Jinshu lying in bed with the covers pulled over her head, an empty pill bottle beside her. Sleeping pills, exactly the same brand, exactly the same bottle as the one before the college entrance exam. Gu Yuanjing panicked, shouting to call 120. I stood at the bedroom door. The floating text popped up. Second fake suicide attempt by Fang Jinshu initiated. Empty bottle recycled. Residual contents in bottle are vitamin tablets. Substance actually taken by Fang Jinshu, 2 melatonin tablets. Purpose, to continuously generate suffering value through repeated suicide patterns simultaneously, as retaliatory punishment for Shi Ning's refusal to sign. I walked in, picked up the empty medicine bottle from the nightstand, unscrewed the cap and sniffed it under my nose. There was no distinctive smell of sleeping pills. Dad, Gu Yuanjing was dialing 120, his hands trembling. Wait a minute, wait for what? Your mom took the pills. Smell this bottle. I held the bottle out in front of him. Gu Yuanjing paused, then took it and sniffed. He didn't know much about sleeping pills, but he really didn't smell any medicine. What is this? Vitamins? What? The residue in the bottle is vitamin tablets. Gu Yuanjing's mouth hung open, his phone still held up in his hand. Fang Jinshu shifted slightly under the blanket. Ningning, what are you saying? Her voice was weak, choked with tears. Mom really doesn't want to live anymore. Mom can't hold on. I sat on the edge of the bed. Mom, stop pretending. Fang Jinshu's body paused for a moment. I lifted a corner of the blanket. Your complexion is normal, your lips aren't purple, and your breathing is steady. If you really took a whole bottle of sleeping pills, you wouldn't be able to speak by now. Her eyes peeked out from under the blanket, looking at me. There were tears in those eyes, but beneath the tears lay something like a knife that had not yet been drawn from its sheath. Gu Yuanjing stood still, slowly lowering his phone. Jinshu, what's going on here? Fang Jinshu didn't look at him, she only looked at me. I watched for a long time, then she sat up and wiped the tears from her face. When did you stop believing in me? On the day of the college entrance exam, even earlier, from the moment I died on the rooftop in my previous life and saw those words above your head. But I didn't say that sentence. She fell silent. The entire room was quiet for at least 10 seconds. Gu Yuanjing stood there, like a piece of wood. Fang Jinshu suddenly smiled. That smile was different from her usual ones. It wasn't gentle, weak, or pitiful. It was a smile that carried a hint of chill, one that acknowledged defeat. You've changed, Ningning. You're the one who made me change. Her smile slowly faded. Fine, Mom's not acting anymore. She lifted the blanket, put on her shoes, got out of bed, and sat down in front of the vanity. She picked up the comb and began to slowly brush her hair, looking at me in the mirror. You want to know anything? Mom will tell you. I looked into her eyes. In the mirror, your cancer is fake, isn't it? Yes. Gu Yuanjing turned his head sharply. Wah, shut up. Fang Jinshu didn't even look back, her voice turning cold. Stay out of this. She continued looking at me. What else do you want to know? How much suffering value have you taken from me in total? Her hand paused for a moment. How do you know the term, suffering value? Answer my question. She lowered her head and put down the comb. A little over 2,000, yes, a little over 2,000. What can you exchange for that over there? She didn't answer. A villa, a new identity, a lifetime's worth of retirement money. Fang Jinshu turned around and looked at me, no longer combing her hair, no longer looking in the mirror. Ningning, you know everything. I know almost everything. You said it before you died in my previous life. every single debt, I remember. So what are you going to do? Call the police? Sue me, or tell your dad I'm an outsider? I shook my head. None of that. Then what do you want? I want you to leave. Fang Jinshu was stunned. I won't sign your pledge, and you don't need to keep acting here. Leave when you have enough points, or go earn them somewhere else if you don't. But from today on, don't touch my life anymore. Your school, your grades, your friends, everything about you, I won't touch. Is that your condition? It's not a condition, it's the outcome. In my previous life, she drove me to the rooftop, thinking I would only cry for the rest of my life. If I could do it all over again, I don't want just an apology from her, I want her to completely lose the qualification to extract suffering points from me. I stood up. If you continue staying in this house, continue pretending to be my mother, continue earning suffering points from me, I will submit all the evidence to the school and the local community, faking diagnoses, falsifying information for impoverished students, feigning suicide, emotional manipulation. You won't be able to complete your mission in this world either. Fang Jinshu's expression finally changed. That chill rose from the depths of her eyes, covering all her gentle masks. Are you threatening me? I'm giving you a choice. Gu Yao's voice came from the living room. She seemed to have heard some commotion and called out softly from outside. Dad, what's wrong? Gu Yuanjing stood frozen at the door, unable to utter a word. Fang Jinshu stared at me for a long time. Finally, she smiled. That smile was even colder than the one before. Good, you've grown up. Chapter 29. Fang Jinshu left the house before the 15th day of the first lunar month. She packed 2 suitcases, one large and one small. She left without saying goodbye to anyone. No tears, no looking back. The taxi stopped downstairs. She put her luggage in the trunk and paused when opening the car door. She glanced back at the window on the second floor. I stood behind the curtain, watching her. She might have seen me, or maybe she didn't. The car door closed. The car drove away. Floating words drifted out. Fang Jinshu has exited the current target area. Suffering value link interrupted. Task status incomplete. Fang Jinshu has left this world. Previous host's death benefit overwritten by rebirth timeline. Current round claimable suffering value 0. The last line of text lingered for a long time before fading away. Longer than ever before, I stood by the window, gazing at the empty road below. There were no taxis left. There was no Fang Jinshu anymore. The mountain that had weighed me down in my previous life was finally pushed away by my own hands. Gu Yuanjing sat on the living room sofa, holding a lighter in his hand, but not lighting a cigarette. He was silent for a long time. Your mom is gone. Yeah, all those things she said. Her illness, were they all fake? Yes. He placed the lighter on the coffee table and covered his face with both hands. He only lowered his hands after a long while. His eyes were red. I'm sorry for you. I didn't say anything. Everything that happened to you from childhood, sickness, injuries, being wronged, was your mother's doing. Yes. His lips trembled slightly. I didn't know. You don't want to know. He fell silent. Gu Yao stood at the corner of the corridor, holding a cup of water, but didn't come over. Her eyes were red, and her nose was red too. That afternoon, I gathered all the things of Fang Jinshu I could find in my room and put them into a cardboard box. Scarves, aprons, a half-knitted scarf, cosmetics, the will and the letter of commitment from that file bag. Everything went in. Seal it, push it under the bed. Then I opened my phone and sent a message to Teacher Chen. Teacher Chen, the attachment is a supplementary note regarding my mother. I hope you can keep it on file. The attachment contained the materials I had reorganized, removed all content regarding floating words, suffering points, and guide tasks. No one would believe those things. Left only verifiable facts, falsified diagnosis, empty chemotherapy records, someone else filling out the poor student registration, and 2 instances of staged suicide attempts. Added a screenshot of Gu Yuanjing's own admission in writing and the audio recording I made when Fang Jinshu finally admitted the cancer was a lie. That day in the bedroom, when she said, yes, my phone was recording in my pocket. 8 seconds. But it was enough. After the new semester started, the school's poverty assessment results came out. After verification, student Ning has no issues with moral character. The related filing was done by family members, not by her own will. The records have been corrected. When Teacher Chen told me the conclusion, she added one more sentence. Ning, from now on, you don't need to worry about this matter anymore. Thank you, Teacher Chen. I left the hospital office. The sunlight in the corridor was very good. It was the sunlight of late February. My phone rang. Han Zhengli's assistant called. Hello, Ning, Mr. Han asked me to inform you, your research report has passed the initial review by the editor. A phone call will be scheduled next week to discuss revisions. Is that convenient for you? Convenient, alright, Mr. Hans said to let you focus on writing. Feel free to contact us if you have any questions. The call ended. I stood in the hallway, sunlight streamed through the window. Falling onto my feet, core journal, freshman year, first author, the phone rang. Again, this time it was Song Wani. I heard about the paper. Yeah, are we competitors? Depends on how you define it. She was silent for a second on the other end, then laughed. Alright, then let's see who's better, always has been. She hung up. On the way back to the dormitory, Jiang Nan and Mu Qing were waiting for me at the door. Ning, your paper passed the initial review. Yeah, publishing in a core journal as a freshman. Are you even human? Mu Qing adjusted her glasses. Congratulations. I walked into the dorm and placed my bag on the table, outside the window. Someone was running on the sports field. The sky is very blue. The last entry in the phone memo was written 10 days ago. Fang Jinshu has left. There will be no more floating words. There will be no more suffering points. There will be no more bowls of porridge that need to be thrown away. There is another line below. From today on, my life is my own. This line was written on the night of Chinese New Year's Eve. After finishing writing, I sat in my room for an hour, doing nothing, just sitting outside the window. Sporadic firecracker sounds could be heard. Chapter 30, the first semester of freshman year, the paper officially accepted. The acceptance letter from the journal was lying on my desk as the evening sun shone through the dormitory window. Mu Qing took a photo. In the photo was the letter and my profile. As I looked down at the words, she sent me the photo, saying, "Keep it." I saved it. In the first semester of my sophomore year, I received the National Scholarship. In the second semester of my sophomore year, I joined Han Zhengli's research team. The team consisted of 3 graduate students and 1 postdoctoral researcher. I was the only undergraduate. Han Zhengli said to me, "Your starting point is lower than others, but your eyes are steadier than theirs. That is more important than anything." In my junior year, a sub-project of Ruiyao Capital required a pilot program for inclusive finance in the central and western regions. Han Zhengli recommended me to serve as a project assistant. I stayed in Gansu for 2 months, visited 11 counties, and went to over 60 communities. It felt like going back to the summer before the college entrance exam, carrying a questionnaire alone, standing on unfamiliar streets, knocking on doors one by one. The difference was that this time, no one was calculating how much hardship I had endured behind my back. Song Wani got the opportunity to study abroad in Singapore during her junior year. Before leaving, they treated me to a meal. Ning, I admit you're better than me. Better in what way? Your strength isn't that your grades are higher than mine, it's that you've carried heavier burdens than I have, yet you haven't let yourself be distorted. She took a sip of juice. We'll compete again when I get back. Alright. In the second year after I left home, Gu Yuanzheng married an elementary school teacher. When he called to tell me, his tone was uneasy. Ning, you don't blame Dad, do you? No, I don't. Just live your life well. I'll keep that old house and put your name on it. No need, you can live there yourself. Guyao got admitted to a normal university in her province. She occasionally sends me messages on weekends. Sister, I ranked 3rd in GPA this semester. Not bad. I want to take the postgraduate entrance exam, and I'm aiming for your Hucking University. Then you'll have to work harder. I will. She sent a fist-clenching emoji. Then she sent another message. Sister, thank you. For what? For letting me see how far a person can go on their own. I looked at those words and didn't reply. After a while, I sent 2 characters. Keep going. In my final year of university, Han Zhengli officially invited me to join Ruiyao Capital's inclusive finance team, responsible for project coordination in the central and western regions. Starting annual salary, 480,000 yuan. On the day of signing the contract, he brewed a pot of tea in his office. Ning, do you remember the first time I gave you my business card? I do. It was after the New Edge Forum. After I returned that day, I looked up your college entrance exam scores and background. Then I did something. I had my assistant go to Heian province to verify the data in your research report. Every piece of data was solid, over 400 questionnaires. Not a single one was inflated. He set down his teacup. I've invested in many projects and met many smart people, but those who work steadily and diligently are becoming fewer and fewer. What you do isn't flashy, but every step is grounded in reality. That's why I chose you. I took the contract and signed it. As the pen touched the paper, 2 images came to mind. In my previous life, I fell from the hospital rooftop, and the wind carried Fang Jinshu's laughter far away. In this life, at 18, in the college entrance exam hall, the moment the invigilator returned my admission ticket to me. That day's exam paper was filled with many words, each word was my own, no one helped me and no one wanted me to finish writing, but I finished. From that moment on, I was no longer her ATM, I am sure Ning. After signing the documents, I left the building. It was getting dark. I stood at the entrance of the office building, watching the lights on the opposite commercial street turn on one by one. My phone rang, a text message, no signature, no number, as if sent from another world. The suffering you endured in your past life was originally worth 2 billion to me, but you came back to life and wiped the slate clean. This life, you haven't let me earn a single cent. Sure Ning, you're truly ruthless. I stared at that text message. I watched for a long time, then I lowered my eyes and smiled. Ruthless, compared to how she stepped on my bones to earn money in her previous life. I've already been merciful enough, I replied in my heart. It was worth it. Then I deleted it. The wind blew up from the street corner below, carrying the scent of roasted sweet potatoes and the warmth of spring. I put my phone in my pocket and walked toward the subway station. My steps were steady, just like when I walked out of the hospital corridor 7 years ago, one step at a time, not too fast, not too slow. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.